Well, look, I was planning on talking about the CIA remote viewing the Ark of the Covenant, a big story that came out recently. But I turned 40 today, and I feel like we're just going to talk about the stock market. Very serious things. I'm an adult now. So we'll talk about IRAs, Roths, good investments, and blood thinners. This is Inverted World Live. I'm just kidding. We got tinfoil hats. We got a good day planned for us. Hey, Alex.
Happy birthday, Shane.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy for our day today. We have a very special guest.
You know it.
Karr is here in person.
In the flesh.
How are you?
I'm great, man. I would not want to be anywhere else right now. This is so cool. I'm really happy to celebrate your 40th with you.
Thanks, man. And you two know each other, right?
Who are you?
We're somewhat acquainted. Yeah.
Somewhat.
Yeah.
You've met before. It seems like you guys are cool together, so I'm glad it should be a good vibe.
We've been together for 16 years. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
And but I did warn her on the drive over here that I will disgrace her because she's the crystal ball to my Kyle Kalinske, and I will disgrace your good name today. I'm sorry. It's just going to happen.
Perfect.
I can unmute your mic. I can mute it. I can unmute it. I can take you off air real quick.
I can finally do.
All right, I'll keep that in mind.
Divorce court
With your tinfoil hat.
Yeah. Conspiracy divorce court. My husband went down a rabbit hole way too deep.
Mute.
Yeah.
Don't cancel me. Don't cancel me, lovey.
Wow, so much has happened since we were last in this room.
Oh yeah, tell us all
I guess I
about
should tell you
it.
guys about that, like why I wasn't here.
For
This is
some
an
reason,
insane
before we get
story.
there, I can't find the YouTube chat. So if anyone's trying to like say anything, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, we had some issues as we got here. Karr has like some weird aura that shuts down technology.
That is absolutely true.
It is a
Yeah.
And it's
story of my
typically
life.
me who has those issues. But
Yeah.
does he do this a lot?
Well, with the two of you and the
The two of
tinfoil
us,
hats,
forget
forget
it.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a rough go. Yeah.
But Alex fixed it, and we'll see how it goes. So yeah, I wasn't here last week because I had car issues. I went to the Grifties. I did the Grifties. I love the Hoteps. Did a little bit of comedy up there. On my way to the Grifties, I got pulled over by a police officer in New Jersey, and he was like, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" I'm like, "Nope." And he was like, "Your registration is suspended." I'm like, "You're kidding me." I had no idea. My insurance is fine. I paid for all the other dumb stuff. And he's like, "I have to arrest you
What?
by law and impound your car." And he must have seen something on my face that was like, "That's preposterous." He actually let me go. But he's like, "If any state trooper pulls you over, you're not getting out of it." He was very nice, oddly enough. I have very rare experience, like good experiences with the police. I've been pulled over a lot throughout my
You
life.
have been pulled over a lot. It's
have
like
a lot
every
of-
other week with you.
A lot of issues with them. It's the CIA. They're on my tail constantly. But he was like, "There's a new law." I'm like, "Well, what's that?" He goes, "Easy Pass and the DMV now work together."
Sure.
And I didn't. So for people listen to the show, know I have a problem with technology, clearly, and like I don't have a TV at home. I also don't have an Easy Pass. I usually just pay cash, and I always set my GPS to like no tolls. Like I just don't like going through tolls unless I really have to. Then I pay cash or I pay online later, right?
So instead of going 4 hours, you go 13 hours to Jersey.
Yes, it's a scenic route, Alex.
Yeah.
So what happened was I guess I missed two tolls from years ago that just didn't in Pennsylvania and in Massachusetts.
No.
I'm sorry, I'm being told that the link is not working.
Oh, no. Are we not live?
Are we not live?
That's why-
the link is pulling up private.
Oh,
We
that's
can do
probably
this-
my
We'll
bad.
do this better.
Yeah.
We'll do this
Sorry.
better. No, it's okay.
I sent that link out, and
Good.
I'm
I'm glad
getting
you did.
this feedback. And you said you're not seeing the
It's
chat.
my fault.
So
It's my fault. Okay, so we're going public. We should be public now. Let's see. Does that change anything?
let me see.
Does it start it over?
Yep, we're good.
Are we live?
We're good.
Are we
We're
live?
live.
But are we live from the beginning or live from like?
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we'll go back into it.
But the link is working now. We are live. We're good.
If you're just now joining us,
Wait, let's find out.
we're on the moon. which is fake, as is this show. You think they can hear back?
Oh my God. I don't know.
Well, if you didn't hear what I was saying, I was saying that I was just telling a story why I wasn't here last week, and I was pulled over, told my registration was suspended because Easy Pass now works at the DMV, and I had 2 tolls I missed, one in Pennsylvania, one in Massachusetts, and they can now suspend your license or your registration for that. So I'm like, then I was like, how did you know? You know, he's like, because I'm a Luddite, I'm a Neanderthal. His scanner can just scan any license plate on the road constantly. So it's just pinging like bing, bing, bing. Man, so it's like Clearview AI for license plates.
Okay.
You know, like I hate Clearview AI, that facial recognition database that Teal funded that just scraped the internet of all your photos. They also had that for license plates. So I was basically stranded in New Jersey. Because I was thinking about risking driving back, knowing that now, like I probably wouldn't get out of being arrested on my way back to West Virginia. But we had the baby with us, our youngest.
Oh my God.
And Nancy was with us, and I'm like, if I'm gonna get arrested, I'd just do it alone. You know, I don't want them to be roped into this thing because they wouldn't even be able to drive away with the car, right? They'd take the car if it got to that. They could arrest you for up to 10 days. So they say. And of course, it happened during the weekend, so I couldn't talk to DMV or Easy Pass to figure it out. So I had to wait till Monday.
Oh God.
And I ended up having to get a rental car because when I called, finally got through, you know, and like the DMV was created just to recruit for ISIS. Like every time I talk to these people, I feel like I'm changing my name to like Osama, you know? They're horrible, miserable people. I paid this extravagant fee that I cannot believe I had to pay.
You said this was in Jersey, and it's a law just in Jersey, or is this like everywhere?
It's everywhere, I guess.
And if it's not everywhere right now, it will be everywhere very soon. Yeah. It's just
so I paid this thing, and right after the payment went through, they're like, "Oh, just by the way, this takes 72 hours to clear." I'm like, "So you can destroy my life like that?" You know, I never even got the notices in the mail or nothing.
Oh my God.
I had no idea. So that's why I ended up getting a rental car in Jersey, drive the family back, and then have to drive the rental car back after the thing cleared after 72 hours.
Oh my God.
So that was a lot of fun.
So when you initially said that you had car trouble, I assumed that it's like mechanical problems.
It was existential trouble.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I didn't anticipate that it was going to be like the total state has come down on you.
The surveillance state is in the highway, and there's no avoiding it.
So has this situation moved you closer in your political philosophy toward anarchy or not?
Every time I have to deal with this stuff, yeah.
Okay,
every time. But then I'm like,
that's all I want.
But then I'm like, I think tyrants always emerge from every system.
Sure.
So you know, no matter what, I'm gonna have to deal with this.
Well, we should talk about tyrants. Like I mean, there are good tyrants and bad tyrants.
Yeah, name a good one.
Bukele.
Right. And say why.
Because nobody knows what his political philosophy is. His philosophy is no more murder.
Right.
And he stamped out murder to the extent that now he's just like, okay, there's no more murder happening in my country now, so we're going to deal with drunk driving.
Right.
He was just like, okay, all right, so drink as much as you want. He actually gave a speech. He said, buy beer by the case because it's cheaper that way. Whoa. But do not drive drunk. Right. We will pull you over. We will put you in the most horrific prison you've ever imagined.
Right.
So that's the case of a good tyrant.
Yeah. Does he believe in Easy Pass?
I don't think they've got that level of technology yet. But we'll
you're
see.
Selling this to me now. All of this sounds great.
But the key is a good tyrant. How do you guarantee a good tyrant? You can't.
Yeah, right. That's the problem I have with the whole technocracy thing that like Curtis Garvin writes about. Yeah. Like I agree with that. You know, I think he says stuff like the right doesn't exhibit force or power when they're actually in power, in quotes for those who are listening. So I get that, but his technocracy, his idea of a technocracy is like it's a corporation running the country with a CEO, president, and the corporations it consists of experts. But after living through COVID and lockdowns, we learned that experts don't exist.
Right.
Like obviously there's some out there, but experts always seem to rise to power. That it's like that, and they're antithetical to experts. They're not experts of anything. So it's like I don't trust the idea of experts either. Which is where like maybe there's another idea of anarchy that's without that type of level of control over me.
Sure. Well, Bukele isn't an expert. He's a leader.
Right.
Like he had, like if you ask to see his credentials, I don't know what they are. Like he started off as a very, the governor or mayor of a very small area, and then he's become, he's fought enormously difficult battles to become the president and become the president again of that country.
Right.
Like, he tried to run for a second election, and the bureaucracy, the Supreme Court said, you can't do that. So he replaced the Supreme Court.
Wow.
Wow. And then he was just like, okay, well now I can be, so like he doesn't have any expertise. There are no credentials attached to his name, but he actually has genuine leadership. Like he is one of the most unbelievable leaders of the modern era.
Do you think he'll just stay in power?
He said that he won't. I think his term ends in 2029.
Okay.
And at that point, I hope he hops on a boat, floats over here, and then declares himself president for 10 years, puts 3%, maybe 5% of our population in prison forever, starting with every politician except for Thomas Massey. Yeah. And then he governs like a real leader should govern. That would be great. That's the ideal circumstance.
Yeah, because it seems like someone like him would actually give us accountability.
Yes.
Like the thing I was most excited for Trump for, or the reason I voted for him, despite my reluctance because of the people around him, like Teal and Vance, honestly. Sure. Even though he's impressive at talking, I'm skeptical because of his lineage from the technocrats, right? Like the Teals and Reid Hoffmans, and even though they don't like each other allegedly, but. I wanted accountability. I wanted these people to be punished. I don't really need. I'd rather see people in jail.
Yes.
Forever. You know, and we're not getting that.
But we're not getting that.
Yeah.
Cash Patel. We were just talking about this on the way over here. Cash Patel wrote a book, Government Gangsters.
Right.
There are gangsters and criminals.
Yes.
And what did he tweet last week? He said, if you see a Fed, hug them.
You know what that sounds like now that you just said it again? When
it's exhausting.
When Pelosi was telling people to hug Chinese people during lockdowns.
There's nothing to see here.
If you see someone infected with the Wuhan virus, hug them. They need your love. That's the actual early vaccine was the hug. Yeah, I'm not hugging a Fed. I don't care. Like I get it, but like I wanted accountability. Yeah. And that's the thing that's so upsetting.
But we have accountability at home. And it's
exactly
hug a Fed.
Yeah,
hug a Fed.
Unbelievable. And like Whitney Webb also has written books about how the mafia basically absorbed the government, maybe the vice versa, right? When they had Hoover under blackmail, and so they infiltrated the FBI immediately, right? So and that's just going on for decades. Yeah. And I get that they're slashing all this stuff, which is great. But a lot of the joy we're getting right now is abstract, and like the people we deserve actual accountability for these people, these insane people mutilating society. And I always was suspicious of actually getting any retribution. Right. But I think we need it. If they're willing to shut down the whole world for what went on 5 years ago, we should have equal amounts of punishment for these people who went along with it. So that
would be nice.
It's very aggravating. But there's people out there who, that makes them squeamish. Mm-hmm. But sure. I'm like, we had political prisoners. We had all these J6ers in prison for nothing, and BLM was running amok for the Summer of Love. And now here we are. Tesla is now the right's Israel, other Israel 2.0. Yeah. I'm like, I want to focus on what happened 5 years ago, real quick. Like I want Nuremberg type trials for all these people. So I don't know much about what he's been doing down there with Bukele. But I know you're a fan.
Big fan. Yeah. My admiration for him is so enormous.
Right.
Because that's why I've been saying, like, if I can't have anarchy, and I can't, because that's the most stark criticism you can aim at the anarchist political philosophy is that you can't live in Ancapistan in your head forever.
Right.
This is why all the libertarians are drooling. Like they're just like they cannot function in society. Like when at the Libertarian Convention last May, when Trump got up there, he said, nominate me as president, and if you don't, then get your 2 to 3% like you get every 4 years, like a gangster. That was such a we were there together,
we were standing right next to each other, and that was the first time I'd seen him in person.
Me too.
Deliver a speech, and I was very impressed because he's in that room, and half that room is booing him. And he fed off the booze. It was a lot of booze.
Like the corporate press said that it was like he got total booze. That was not the case. It was half and half.
It was because there's people next to us cheering and people next to us booing.
Exactly.
And he fed off the booze and BOOS because that's funny. But we do have beer in house today.
Yes. Oh yeah. It's a local beer too. It's a Maryland beer.
Let's just back this up a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Do you think we get off the rails already?
Do you think people heard the beginning?
No, I don't. Well, Rumble should be fine. Okay. I know Rumble was also a slight delay.
Yep.
My bad. YouTube also my bad. We had a late start coming here. Then we had audio issues. We are celebrating Shane's 40th birthday.
Thank you.
And
Right.
hence our party hats, which is our tinfoil hats.
Yep.
I also now have braces. So if I sound like a crazy person, I'm just throwing it out there. I'm getting ahead of the narrative.
Yeah, Alex actually, not only a tinfoil hat wasn't enough, she got tinfoil mouth.
Yes. Yes.
I know. Well, someone in the chat was like, do your tinfoil beanie hats work to repel evil or just look super cool? So that is why we're wearing them. But if you want to talk about the history
Yeah, give
of
us the
tinfoil
history
hats,
of the tinfoil hat.
Okay, so there was a fellow named Leonard Kyle, Kille, I think, and he was a brilliant engineer, but he had kind of like personality issues, psychological issues. He was actually, from what I've read, he was one half responsible for the Polaroid camera, the original Polaroid camera. I'm going to give you the Cliff Notes, and I might botch a few things. So I'm trying to draw on my memory here, and he basically was a test subject for a very early version of the Neuralink.
Okay.
So he basically had a very invasive surgery, had an implant in his brain that was an attempt to try to like deal with somebody that had behavioral issues. The behavioral issues got a little bit better, but he would also wind up like walking around in the parking lot in the middle of the night, like a grocery store parking lot. So like there were problems that were caused before the implant and problems caused after the implant. But he alleged that there were so many problems after the implant that he would put a garbage can over his head to block the radiation from coming into his brain and affecting his behavior. The people at the hospital that he was dealing with would basically just get a tinfoil hat.
Wow.
They said, don't put the garbage can on your head. We'll give you a tinfoil hat that's going to block the stuff. So the tinfoil hat, which is now associated with crazy, maybe not in 2025,
Right, yeah.
but in recent memory.
Used to be taboo, but now it's high fashion.
Yeah, it's high fashion. That's great.
I mean, look at us.
Yeah, we look great.
I know. This is a very highfalutin
safe.
conversation.
Yeah.
We're in a good place here. So what had typically been like kind of an epithet for somebody that's just like, oh, well, you have a tinfoil hat time. The guy that inspired that was a guy that was literally using the tinfoil because he was an engineer and he understood his stuff to keep these things from coming into his head and making him act crazy.
Wow.
So the history of the tinfoil hat is not what we would assume. It's actually just speaks to the fact that there are malevolent forces out there that can control your thoughts and control your brain, and you have to keep them out.
Right. Yep. The Neuralink is right down the road.
Yeah.
Like, how are we going to block that? Like, people need to reject the Neuralink.
No, I'm just going to take it.
You are? Yeah.
I don't know.
If Bukele says to take the Neuralink, Chris is going to be like, well, line me up. If it keeps me out of jail, sir.
Right.
Do you remember when that was?
I don't.
It's
I wish I did.
It's like a remote control lobotomy.
Yes, essentially,
That's the fear of moving forward with a population that accepts the Neuralink at large. What they can do with the social credit score and stuff like that. I wonder what happened to him. Do you have any idea?
Man, I really should have done a little bit more research into him before I came on today.
I want to look him up. Yeah. He's
Kyle.
OG of the tinfoil hat.
Leonard Kyle. Yeah.
Interesting. Can you look him up, actually?
Sure.
Watch it. All of it's fake.
Yeah, it's all
Chris
fake.
is just like late April Fools.
Who has been pioneering this like kind of revisionist history of this guy is Kurt Metzger, the comedian.
Yeah.
But he's getting a lot of his information from Control-Alt History.
Okay.
Who's doing a lot of revisionist history in his own right.
Interesting.
So he's digging that up. It was a video that I saw from Control-Alt History that Kurt Metzger shared.
Interesting.
But it seemed to be pretty legitimate and trustworthy.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I love it.
I mean, what do you want to know?
I just want to know if there's like pictures of him
I also
in tinfoil
remember
hats.
if you can find that.
Is that him?
Is that him?
Oh, no. That's got to be
Wait, what's the name of the guy?
Leonard Kyle.
Yeah.
Kille, I believe. I know that his mother sued on behalf of him because she basically said that he was turned into a vegetable because of this surgery.
Wow.
I can't find pictures.
They scrubbed him.
Interesting. You
scrubbed
don't
him.
say.
Interesting. I have a tinfoil hat from, remember when MIA was on the Culture War?
Yeah.
She makes like an actual tinfoil hat.
Really?
It looks like a baseball cap, but it's tinfoil.
That's dope.
And I think it protects me
Yeah.
from all the 5G stuff.
Sure,
I wear it all the
sure.
time. It's not as
I think
cool
it's
looking
Kyle
as this.
Leonard. Is that right?
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, it could be.
I don't know.
I thought it was Leonard Kyle. But
That's all right. But before we go to the arc, I was
No,
just
it's
thinking
not
about
Leonard
I was thinking
Kyle.
about
I don't know.
my birthday. My birthday has always been like around death. It's very bizarre.
What do you
Today,
mean?
so far,
Are you
I'm
dying?
fine. No, but like throughout my childhood, there was weird moments of like death on or around my birthday. And I always think about this coming around because not only is my birthday around like Passover and then Easter time, so it's like
Right.
the resurrection, Good Friday, and all that stuff.
Passover, yeah,
Passover, and
yeah.
then the Last Supper, right?
Sure.
All that stuff. But like this isn't even funny. But I was thinking about this on the way over. So I grew up on a farm, right? I was the only person on a farm in my whole area. So on my birthday, all the kids from in town, the school would like, we'll go to Shane's farm for the birthday. We'll do pony rides. And one day on my birthday on the bus, my dog was dead in the yard as we all drove by the house. I'm like, what the heck kind of so it's like an early memory
Wow.
of
How
my
old were you?
birthday. It must have been 7 or 8.
Wow.
So that was cool. And then this is actually the 10-year anniversary of my favorite funeral. And I don't mean that I was happy this person died. It was because of my hero. But it was just like the culmination of so much chaos. My 30th birthday was at my grandfather's funeral. And I think about this a lot. That spring, I spent almost every day for like 3 weeks in an ER watching different people die. 2 people die, and one person just barely escaped death. Nancy's cousin was the first. That was up in Rochester. And that started in like March, I guess, early March or mid-March. Go up there. She's like in ICU. And we went up there. We drove from Hudson Valley, New York, all the way up to Rochester. I thought we were going to say goodbye. She was a college kid, right? And it was insane and scary. And she pulled through, and we got home. And like a day later, Nancy's grandfather just like fell into a coma. And I spent like a week in the hospital. Like we were all just like at his bedside, and we had been living with him, for like a year, taking care of him. He had bone cancer. So it wasn't like a surprise, but it's still a surprise,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it's like watching him just wither away in an ICU after then just spending a week prior in an ICU. And you get really accustomed to the sounds of an ICU. Like you've been in an ICU, the beeping and the whirring of the machines and the sounds of machines that keep people like just barely alive. So then he passed away, and we had his funeral. And then on April 1st, on April Fool's Day, I got the call that my grandfather fell into a coma in Florida. I'm like, you got to be kidding me, right? So like we live with Nancy's grandfather, and that was her like hero, her only like father figure, right? And then my hero, my grandfather, like I love this guy. I had great stories. He's the person like I started thinking about being a writer because he wasn't a writer, but he had the best stories, right? So, and I'd spent like 15 years recording all his stories. So like I have all his information I downloaded, right?
Right.
So then I spent that week in the hospital watching his kidneys fail, watching him and then eventually die. And then my 30th birthday was at his funeral. Like funerals in Florida, like the way people die in Florida, the way people are buried in Florida is so ridiculous because it's all above ground now. So this guy, my grandfather was a hearse driver, right? So we had a very dark sense of humor.
God.
He was, he'd always joke about, he was really tall, right? He was like a little bit taller than me. So he's like 6'3", 6'4". And he'd be like, a hearse is the only car that has enough legroom for me. And he loved to drive that hearse, and he'd sing to the corpses in the back. And he'd do all these crazy jobs like they called them transports, where someone's family got enough money to put the dead relative in a new, better casket and plot, maybe a better view, something like that. Because there's people who were like in ground, buried below ground. Before Florida was like, you got to put them either in like crazy expensive cement blocks underground, although the flooding, because the water table and like there's so many floods that happen and bodies just pop up out of the ground. Before they changed that, and now, so he did like jobs like that, crazy stories. But what happened was after they changed that law and most people started to just opt to be buried above ground, these giant mausoleums, most mausoleums in Florida, the newer ones are just like giant ice trays. Like they just look like there's like 50 people in a giant box, and you just slide it out and you throw them in and you throw them in. But it was just like the most ridiculous way to spend my 30th birthday. And it was very bizarre. I like became him that day. Like I looked just like him, right? And so all his friends came for the funeral. And well, first I wrote like this really ridiculous, like long eulogy, right? I was devastated, and I wrote it at his workbench. He was like a tinker, like he'd drill holes into his bullets, at the workbench, just in case, because they open up big time in the body. If if you ever need to take care of someone or an alligator, he had an alligator issue, and I had to apologize at the funeral because I told him I'd give him a Vikings funeral, and I wasn't able to. I tried. Trust me. There was a man-made lake behind their house, and I'm like, Grandma, I'm burning his body on a raft right here. She's like, no, you're not. I'm like, all right, fine. So funeral goes down, all his friends show up, and they're all just, and it might be because they're just old, but I literally felt my face making his facial expressions all of a sudden. It was so bizarre. And I could feel it happening. It was so odd. And they're calling me his name, Norman. Everyone. And I'm like, okay, they're just old. You know, everyone's like 85. But it was happening all day long. And then that was like one of my first real encounters with something weird. And I've told the story a few times, but the first one was I was at the house, at my grandma's house. I'd been there my whole life, like 30 years, just going, you know, visiting. And all of a sudden, I'd never heard this before, an alarm started going off. So she has an alarm. It has never gone off. I've never heard it go off. Nothing ever happened like that. But then all of a sudden, alarm goes off and tells you what window might be open or something. And it was the window over his workbench where he spent a lot of his time. And that's where I wrote the eulogy like the night before.
Did you write about this in one of the
Yeah,
pieces
it was
we
in the
published?
early inverted world.
That.
Yep,
Yeah,
it was in
yeah.
Maybe the simulation story. I forget
Yes,
which one. Yeah,
that was it. Yeah.
So
I remember that.
That was
that
like
very
really
clearly
weird because that window never opened.
Yeah.
No one touched that window, but now all of a sudden that window opened. I was like, oh, that's really weird.
Right.
And then everyone went home, but I stayed just to make sure my grandma was okay. Right? They'd been together like it was about to be like their 60th anniversary. Right? She was old and frail.
Wow.
Eventually, she'd move in with us, with me and Nancy. But I just stayed behind. And my last day there, I woke up super early. It was like 3 or 4 in the morning. And I just go sit in her little living room. And the ceiling fan just starts turning off and on. I can hear the button going, like being pushed. And it's like an electric button, and you hear it, and it keeps changing speeds. That has also never happened in that house, ever. And I just instantly knew. I was like, that's my grandfather. I think he's talking. And I'm just like, all right. I took it as him being like, she's going to be okay, right? I'll be here. I'm chilling. He's probably got some like hollow points from the afterlife or something. But that was, I could never explain that. You know, those two things were so weird to me. And there was something there. So I don't know what. But so that was like my birthdays. And there's just so many stories like that of like my birthday and like weird. Like I've lost a really good friend on my birthday in high school, another close family friend on my birthday. So it's always like Merle Haggard and I had the same birthday. One of the greats.
Sure.
April 6th. He died on our birthday. It's just a weird time for me. I'm always, kind of like thinking about life and death.
So you're not just turning 40 and thinking about the mortality of life. This is something that's been a consistent theme in your life. Like every birthday kind of brings up the idea of death.
100%. I was born 40, first of all. Like, this is nothing new. I just look older, but I was certainly I had some weird issues as a child. Always talking about death.
Anything happened today?
No, that's why I knocked on wood.
Not yet.
Not yet. No, it was a good day. It was a good day.
Our audio died. That's
our audio, yeah. True. But
you're thinking about it, like it's at the top of your mind because it is a milestone.
Yeah,
being 40 is a huge milestone.
Yeah,
halfway there.
And that's really something.
Yeah, I think it's good. It's like I'm not fearful of it. Like, of course, I don't really want to die, but like I also believe like if I live a good life, hopefully I'll have an eternal life and my family will be there, and that's only a new thing to me, right?
Sure.
But it's always been a part of my life, and I think it's because of growing up on a farm. Constant death, right? I was burying my quote unquote friends, my horses or dogs and cats from I was a year old on my mom's back as she was digging a hole for a horse, right? Into a landfill that we really weren't supposed to use. As a
right.
They're no longer there. So
but
whoever's at that house, check out the landfill. It's dope.
It's a reality that a lot of people are sheltered from when you live on the farm and you actually deal with day-to-day life and death.
Yeah.
Like that's not something that the average person gets to experience.
No, that's why I was such like a weirdo at school. Like, I'm like my weekend was I was a barrel racer, but also burying things. I'm like, so how was your weekend? I didn't have a TV either.
Right.
What I had no idea what Nickelodeon was. I heard about it and like that sounds like some weird witchcraft. I don't know what that is.
It kind of was.
It was, right. So yeah, my whole life was like that, and but I think it's a okay thing to think about death. You don't want to fear it. You don't want to obsess over it, but it's very much a part of life. And growing up, I would start to realize a lot of people, even our age now, haven't really lost people. And like it's just interesting to me to meet people who haven't really lost a lot of people or anyone.
Right.
So,
Well,
yeah.
I think the thing that happens at 40 is your body really does start to deteriorate.
Like the second you turn 40.
I mean,
Well,
yeah.
you just turned 40 last year. I mean, is
Yeah.
that was there like a milestone reckoning of
You know, you could-
thinking about death and mortality and things like that for you?
Not really. I mean, it is kind of interesting when you think like it's like pretty much half over. You know, if you're lucky to live to
If you're
80.
lucky.
Yeah, to live
Yeah.
to 80. 76 is like the average
Yeah.
age, you know. But
Yeah.
here I am, 40. I just got braces, you know, trying to take care of myself.
Yeah.
But
Better
you
late than
do
never.
start feeling it like in your body,
Oh,
you know.
yeah.
It just
Oh, my skeleton hates me.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been very bad to my body. Well, the 16 years of barrel racing where like my knees are hitting like metal barrels at full speed on a horse, or a horse falling on me, or being 3 and having a horse like bite your fingernails off, or getting kicked in the chest, all this stuff. And then singing in a band where I was just not kind to my body. I was
Yeah.
breaking bones on stage, you know,
Yeah.
and then a furniture mover for 10 years. I've been feeling, I've been in pain for a long time,
Yeah.
but it certainly, you know, doesn't get any better. But I'm trying. I stretch like once a year, every now and then. So this story came out this week that I was like, we got to talk about. If you want to pull up that remote viewing for Ark of the Covenant
wait,
thing.
besides you getting arrested?
Oh yeah, besides me getting arrested.
That's crazy.
Almost arrested. It was close. It was close, man.
Wait, the Mars thing you're talking
Not
about?
the we'll do the Mars one next. We'll do the Ark of the
Ark.
Covenant one.
Oh, the thing that
Ark
Chris sent?
no, the other.
Did you send me something
I sent you
else?
another CIA file. Yeah, we'll get to all that.
Oh, okay.
I thought this was fascinating.
Let me find it then.
This picture is hilarious. Alex and Chris brought green balloon ghosts or aliens behind me. It came with lights. Like, what's
It-
up?
yeah.
Where do
Blinking.
you even find
Yeah,
these
blinking
things?
aliens.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Did you see it? Did I send it again?
No, I got it. This.
Okay. So yeah, like this thing has been making the rounds now from December 5th, 1988, and this is from viewer. They call it viewer number 32. So remote viewing was and is people trying to locate things with their minds, right? Trying to find the impression of an object or a person by some sort of psychic ability. And the CIA was deeply involved with this, I think, for probably much longer than we realize. And they say they're not doing it anymore. But do they tell the truth, do you think? Like, can we believe
No,
it?
you have to be skeptical with anything that comes out of the CIA. I mean, like,
Yeah.
we do know that they have been remote viewing.
For sure.
And they have documentation for
yeah.
the process for doing it and their implementation of remote viewing. But,
Yep.
you know, I was looking through this and I was just like, I can't help but be skeptical because it seemed a little vague.
Yeah.
It seemed a little opaque, even for
Yes.
remote viewing.
Yes.
So
That's what I was going to ask you. Like,
Yeah.
do we even believe these documents?
they're enticing.
Right.
I'm like, I want to believe it. I want
Right.
to believe that, you know, they're able to see that there is the Ark of the Covenant
Right.
in existence
Pretty big
somewhere
de-
in the
pretty
Middle
big deal.
East, but I just have to maintain some level of skepticism.
As we all should. So,
Yeah.
so remote viewer number 32, they say here, training target was the Ark of the Covenant. And I believe they didn't know what they were looking for. They were just given coordinates. But right here, the evaluation says, viewer number 32 attained excellent sight contact. Doing very well with stage 4 structure, viewer also exhibits the ability to keep AOL to a minimum. Have to be careful with editing, though. This does not seem to be a problem at this time. Just something to watch for. I don't know what the editing thing means. I tried looking
I
that
don't
up. I'm like, I don't know. The AOL is about analytic overlay. And that's
Oh,
like
okay.
the distortion that the mind might give you. So according to them, right?
Not
Sure,
you've
sure.
got mail.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe this is how they created AOL. It's part of the psychic driving experiment. that they-
Yeah.
can you scroll down a little bit?
Sure.
I forget what's on the bottom of this, but basically, yeah, you can do the second page. Yeah. So I don't think the person was told what they were looking for. So then they, according to the CIA, if you want to believe them, this is how they described it as they're, psychically trying to find it. Target is a container. The container has another container inside of it. The target is fashioned of wood, gold, and silver. The target is similar in shape to a coffin and is decorated with seraphim. And there's a sketch later on. The target is located somewhere in the Middle East, as the language spoken by individuals present seem to be Arabic. Visuals of surrounding buildings indicated the presence of mosque domes. Individuals in the area were clothed in virtually all white, had black hair and dark eyes. One figure I homed in on wore a mustache. I love this detail. So this is the actual number 32 writing this. The target is hidden underground, dark, and wet were all aspects of the location of the target. The purpose of the target is to bring a people together. It is something to do with ceremony, memory, homage, the resurrection. There is an aspect of spirituality, information, lessons and historical knowledge far beyond what we now know. The target is protected by entities and can only be opened now by those who are authorized to do so. That's very Ark of the Covenant-y. Right?
This whole last paragraph, they're dipping into free verse poetry. So here's the giveaway, right?
Yeah.
So they say that I don't know, it's gold and wood and there's seraphim. It's just like, imagine people in the future that digging up the artifacts in America and just being like, oh, I see tables and chairs and the golden arches. It's just like, okay, at McDonald's. Like, I mean, you wouldn't say that. You wouldn't say the seraphim unless you're trying to like kind of retrofit what you're talking about into like some sort of a story. Like that's a red flag for me.
That's why I have a feeling that some of these things are almost like landmines for the future. For us to step on, and it's going to confirm some bias for the narrative they're selling. Like, why are we even knowing about this now?
Yes.
Yes. The one thing I was thinking about, real quick, can you tell us what the Ark of the Covenant? Like, you just gave a nice description before.
So the Ark of the Covenant was something that God mandated for Moses to build, I believe, in Exodus. Is the first time it's mentioned. God said that it has to be a wooden. It probably is kind of like a coffin-like, or however they described it. Wooden box that's inlaid inside and out with gold, and it's topped with 2 seraphim, angels, with 6 wings each, and in the middle of those angels is the mercy seat. The mercy seat is the area from which God issues his directives to his people, the Hebrews. What happened after this was created it's up in the air. We don't know. They've talked about it multiple times. I think they've mentioned it in the book of Joshua. They mentioned it in 2 Samuel. They also mentioned it in the book of Hebrews in the New Testament. We don't really know what became of it, but I think it was in Hebrews where they mentioned that what was contained in there, originally it was supposed to be the 10 Commandments. That Moses broke them, and then he got new 10 Commandments, and he was supposed to put those 10 Commandments in the ark. But when they mention it in Hebrews, it's the 10 Commandments. It's the blossoming rod of Aaron.
Aaron's rod like blossoms.
Yes.
I love that image.
Yeah.
And that's the rod that parts the Red Sea.
Yes.
Right? And does all the stuff to Pharaoh with the snakes and whatnot.
That's right.
And it blossoms. And
manna. It's supposed to contain manna.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think we also know, like, there's people, like, there's very, for lack of a better word, controversial moments surrounding the Ark in the Bible that people are always like, man, why did God have to do that? Like that one person who the Ark is traveling. I forget where this is, what book, but they're traveling with the Ark and it starts to tip over and someone goes to touch it and God kills that person.
Yes.
Because you're explicitly told, do not touch this unless you've been authorized, which is, again, going back to this thing that she's talking about, like only the authorized people can, like, I guess, open it or something. And I think also 70 people or at one point look into it. I think the Philistines have it at one point. The Hebrews get it back. And then I don't know if it's the Philistines or the Hebrews, but 70 people like try to look into it, and they're all killed in the Bible. So it's like you can't mess with this unless God tells you can. Which is, I was thinking when I was reading this thing earlier, I'm like, well, maybe I do want the government to touch it.
Teach them a lesson.
Yeah, please send the entire government to touch the Ark of the Covenant. But I feel like it's a psyop. I feel like. Because this is during the Cold War, the Russians were also up to stuff, and I think it was all part of like a psychological operation to be like, oh yeah, we're doing this too, with all these success rates, and then the Americans are like, well, we gotta do it too, and this is born out of MK Ultra stuff, which we've talked about at length on this show, all these like mind control, crazy psychic experiments, but then if you want to pull up the Mars one,
but speaking of
new to me.
also. We tried watching Chaos on Netflix.
Oh, how is it?
Not so great.
It's a disaster.
He's very upset.
With good reason.
Really?
With
Tom's
good
not
reason.
happy, yeah.
No, this is the psyop. Okay, Netflix did. Errol Morris,
Yep.
the famed documentarian that
Yep.
did this,
Yeah.
he did this to screw him over.
Yeah.
This is a hit job on him. They're trying to make Tom O'Neill look like a moron and a conspiracy theorist and a maniac.
Man. He seems really mad.
He should be.
Did you reach out to him, or did he say
I saw
something?
a tweet. He tweeted out something, and I was like, and I retweeted. I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't.
No,
believe
this
it.
is inexcusable what they did to his work.
Because his book is brilliant.
It is. And what this documentary does is it turns it completely inside out.
Oh my God.
And they do it, and it makes no sense.
No, I said to Chris, I'm like, if you didn't know, if you were like a Gen Z person watching
Right.
this, you would have no idea what's going on.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You know,
No, it's,
and
it's a mess.
You know, I
Absolute
only,
mess.
you know, just knowing, you know, the whole story
Yeah.
and having him on the show, and
Yep.
you should check that episode out with Tom O'Neill.
Great show.
But I haven't read the book. I know you guys love it.
Yep.
But just watching that first episode, I'm like, why is this so confusing?
Right.
Give us the main story first. Give us something.
Is he in some way a narrator through it?
I don't.
No,
Is he?
Errol Morris drives the narrative of the documentary. But by the way, red flag, as soon as you pull it up on Netflix, it's 90 minutes, 89 minutes.
The whole thing?
The whole thing. I was just like, there is no way you're going to do.
For those who didn't watch the episode with Tom
Yeah.
or know about chaos, this took him 20 years to write.
Yeah. I was
It's
like,
a
there's no
giant
way you're doing
book,
this in 90
Massive
minutes.
research.
Yeah.
It touches everything. Do they talk about Jolly West at all?
Well,
They
really?
do. But they front load it. Okay, so if you're Tom O'Neill and you get to the end of this 20-year journey, all you want to talk about is Jolly West and the CIA and all this stuff.
Jack Ruby.
That's
all
what
this
he
stuff.
does. That's what Errol Morris does in this awful documentary, and it's just like, no, you have to build to that.
Right.
Like, of course, Tom O'Neill probably wanted to start there too, but you can't. You
Yeah.
have to walk the reader step by step through this whole thing.
Right.
Errol Morris did not do that. This is a hit job, man. At first, I thought that it was just like incompetence from this famed documentarian. No, it's not incompetence. This was a hit job. They're trying to make him look like a moron and a conspiracy theorist and a lunatic.
Errol's always been ideologically wrong.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, is this chaos documentary just pictures of Charles Manson slow panning, like the Civil War thing?
No,
You know
it's
what?
actually
It
it's
would
like
work.
it's like quick.
It's
cuts.
worse than that.
It's
Yeah.
quick cuts
Yeah.
and like highlighted titles of like newspaper clippings,
okay.
and you're just like, what? If like literally, if you didn't know Charles Manson, like if you didn't know any of the story,
Right.
you'd be
Yeah.
like,
Right.
who?
Yeah,
It's
Tom
a
does a great
mess.
job of like walking
Yes.
the audience through how insane it was, starting at a very small level.
Yes.
With
Yeah.
him not even interested in the story, and then the research keeps piling on, and
Right.
he can't dig his way out. But there's so
Right.
many different tangents that are really important to
Yeah.
like not only the book but like American history
and
major things.
And an honest documentary that represents this incredible book would have put you in that point of view. It really would have walked you through from his point of view. But I felt like Errol Morris, he was basically playing gotcha with him.
What a
Just
jerk.
like, really? And then what, Tom? Like,
Really?
he's doing the interviews with him. And you, like,
Yeah.
I really thought it might be incompetence at first, but how
Interesting.
could it be so incompetent from this guy? It's a fucking
Unless
hit
if he just
job.
didn't understand the book.
I,
and the
I
No,
could be
this- yeah,
misremembering this, but I feel like there was tension between Errol and Tom early on. I think Tom even walked away at a certain point. I don't know if it was Errol or someone else was handling it, but I feel like he saw issues early on. Like Tom is he's like an entertainment reporter first.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
not like the true crime guy.
Right.
He just fell into the story. So like I think he has a pretty good understanding of art, and film. And I think he probably detected some issue going on.
Definitely.
I'd be heartbroken if something like that of mine was that thoroughly mutilated by an idiot.
Yeah, they did him wrong. They did
That
him wrong.
stinks.
Now the other documentary, which Chris fell asleep during, but I enjoyed, was Gone Girls. Which
Oh,
you
how
know,
is that?
Which is the
I
Long
have
Island.
beef with that because I'm like, that's my love.
I know
And
it
like
is.
I'm afraid to watch
I know it
someone
is.
else do it. How is it?
You know, it's good.
Okay.
I thought the first. I mean, I guess it's
Okay.
multiple episodes.
Is
not-
it
I
is it
fell
based on
asleep
Robert
because
Coker's?
I was just like, Shane's already done the reporting.
Yeah.
I don't
Thank
need
you.
to see this. So
Thank
I just
you.
like kind of sat back and closed my eyes.
Did you finish it?
I only watched the first episode,
Okay.
but I did think at least it walked you through a linear story and
Right.
you're getting an understanding of what this is. The Long
It
Island.
did the basics. Yeah.
The Long Island serial killer
Yeah.
who killed the prostitutes,
Right.
whatever. You know,
So it sounds like it's a documentary based off Robert Colker's book called Lost Girls.
I have.
It seems
no
like it's a
idea.
play on that title. And
Probably.
I thought Colker's book was pretty good, and it came out pretty soon after the initial bodies were found. And I liked a lot of his stuff. And my reporting, like went in the direction it did because I was trying to do something different from Kolker, right? Like I like a lot of that book, but then that's how I fell in with the whole amateur detective crowd. Because that was something that he just touched on briefly, and I was like, "Whoa, that's really weird." Because there's all this drama with the blogs, and people then paranoia on the blogs, and people blaming each other. Everyone thinks everyone's a serial killer, so I was like, "I'm just going to embed myself in that world," which is probably not so good for my mental health. But that story is crazy. I'm curious how far into it goes. Like I'm wondering if they show you the suspect,
I will get into it. I will get more into I want to finish it.
Okay.
I mean, the first episode focuses on Shannon Gilbert, and it starts
you can't
there.
not. Yeah.
I mean, and it just goes down.
And it's a documentary?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That whole story is insane. I wonder how deep it's going to go because there's so many like King Chaos, so many tangents. There goes my tinfoil hat. So there's so many tangents with that story of like Shannon's family.
Yeah.
I want to get into the.
But if
Mars
it wasn't
thing
for Shannon's story, we probably wouldn't even be here.
Shannon's
because the mother.
That's the whole crazy part is like Shannon, who was a prostitute, who went missing, and now we have the audio of her calling 911, freaking out. They held that audio for years and years. She went missing, and like they just gave up trying to find her because they're like, it's just another hooker, right? And a year or so later,
it was like 8 months later.
Yeah, in December or November, this officer is training his cadaver dog, Blue, and the dog sniffed out a corpse. Yeah. And he's like, "Who's this?" And they thought it might be Shannon Gilbert.
Yeah.
And then it's not.
Yeah.
And then it snowed.
Yeah.
We continue searching for more remains.
Yeah.
They find 3 others. None of those are Shannon. And then they find a whole graveyard.
Well, what's cool about the first episode is they talk about the 3. They do a backstory on the other 3 girls that were found.
Okay, like Melissa Bartholomew.
Yeah, the 3 other girls. So you have like you Shannon Gilbert, but the 3 girls that were found. So it kind of starts there.
Yeah. And so when the weird thing about all that is like Shannon's still not considered a victim of the serial killer, even though she's found amongst all the dead bodies that they claim this guy murdered. There's a baby as well. Shannon's somehow not a victim, allegedly. And I even talked to Michael Bodden, who's like this weird celebrity forensics guy. He worked on JFK's brain. He worked on George Floyd. Like he's been around.
Oh, he's the guy that does all the celebrity autopsies.
He did Shannon Gilbert. He was hired by Shannon Gilbert's family's lawyer, who's this guy John Ray. Remember him in the story? He's a guy I call like a pimp, basically, which is hilarious. He dresses like a pimp, and he's helping out this prostitute. But he wears like velvet suits and has a ponytail and a top hat. He looks like a villain, and he loves PR stunts, which is it's pretty annoying. But they hired Bodden, and Bodden, according to him, said that her hyoid bone was broken, which is consistent with being strangled to death, right? But the cops don't include her in the victim list. I feel like at some point they will, but they have the suspect in custody now. I'm curious if that's where this is going to go.
Yeah, we'll see.
How deep they are, because that guy's crazy. Like, remember I went and saw him I saw him appear before the judge right after they arrested him. I was like, holy moly. And that dude is like a giant monster who was
that was a good piece.
Popular architect, right? And like he worked on airports and malls and from Manhattan, family man, all this stuff. And my whole thing was, I thought I was done with that story, right? After we published our pieces, I talked to all those people. I thought I was done, and I thought we'd never get the guy. But I always figured, like, this is like cliche with serial killers, but it seemed like it had to be someone who was a well-known, not happy, but like a beloved person in the neighborhood, right? Who's just getting away with all this stuff, like a Ted Bundy for so long, right? Yeah. Because some of them don't act like that. But if you're going to operate for that long, for decades, and fill a graveyard right off a highway, you kind of have to be not in the shadows the whole time. So then it turns out, that's what I was going to say. I have a feeling the guy, I really do think this, the guy I found in that website, remember Utopia Guide, where they're reviewing all the hookers? I feel like that's that guy. So for those who haven't read that story, there's a certain part where me and this amateur detective from this Web Sleuths website come across this place called Utopia Guide. And I swear we're going to go back to remote viewing in just a second. But I can't, you got me started on one.
Sorry, I know, I had to get into it.
Found this crazy website. They're reviewing all these hookers. It's located, this website is only for that part of Long Island, right? So it's like, I was able to go to that website and find them talking about all those girls, all their reviews of the hookers and all that stuff. And that's when we came across this guy who called himself Genius. And he talked about all these great ways to get, to make it so you could evade police, but also evade like your wife being suspicious. So it's like burner phones. He had very specific ways, right?
Yeah. They talk a lot about the burner phones in the
And I think, and so when they captured this guy, the suspect, the architect, they talk about getting all his phones, all these things that were very consistent with what this person was saying on that website. And I, although was fairly paranoid by that point of writing the story, I contacted the FBI and be like, I think this person's, if he's not the killer, this person is crazy. He talked about really violent fantasies. And I was like, maybe he's a troll. Maybe he's fetishized commenting like this. But it's so specific. And everyone on the website called his comments epistles. Like he was just like their leader, right?
Yeah.
So no one ever called me back. And then they arrest this guy and I do get a call. And they say, tell us more about Utopia Guide. So I talked to the lead investigator last summer, I guess. And I ran him through the whole thing, sent him the story and all that stuff. And I was like, and he couldn't tell me anything. I asked, I tried.
Right.
I was like, anything. But all that stuff they found with him was consistent with the stuff that was talked about. But like people who do that thing for a living, they all probably do that stuff at the same time. So with that in mind, Mars.
Let's go to Mars.
Let's go back to remote viewing real quick. Because I didn't know about this. So 4 years before they were remote viewing with the CIA to find the Ark, they had this going on. So, and this is interesting because I told you about number 32 remote viewer. This is number 1 remote viewer. Method of site acquisition, it says. Sealed envelope coupled with geographic coordinates. The sealed envelope was given to the subject immediately prior to the interview. The envelope was not opened until after the interview. In the envelope was a 3x5 card with the following information. The planet Mars. The time of interest, approximately 1 million years BC. Selected geographic coordinates provided by the parties requesting the information were verbally given to the subject during the interview. And what is below this? Is it just like observations from them or?
Transcript.
Okay, so it's a transcript, right. But basically, we don't have to read the whole thing. Basically, they had this guy, I don't know if I'm saying his name right, but it's like Mi'kmaq Eagle.
Where do you even see that?
Probably, I'm remembering it. I don't know if it's on this part yet. I could be butchering his name, but they had this guy remote view Mars from a million years BC, and he's telling them before, because like I said, he didn't know till halfway through that he's even looking at Mars, right? And he's giving them all these descriptions of like this barren wasteland, this pyramid structure. At one point, he says he sees thin, tall species with anyone who's into like the grays, you know, and the aliens. That sounds like that. But I also feel like this is probably a lot like what we were just talking about with the Ark, right? Like it's just bogus.
This is absolutely ludicrous.
Right.
It's so ludicrous. There's nothing to compare it to.
Why do you think? Is it just to kind of scare the Soviets, or is there something? Is there something deeper here?
Was this Soviet era?
This is 84, I think it was.
Okay,
So
all
the Cold
right.
War's still going on. It's towards the end.
I guess so. Maybe that was a motivating factor, but just the idea that you would be able to remote view Mars is so ridiculous.
Right. Because it's fake.
It's fake.
There's no Mars.
There is no Mars.
I don't know where Elon's going.
There is no million years.
Yep.
If there's anything, forgive me, and please cut this out if you have to.
No, we just lost a few viewers. They hate when I say the space is
Remember,
They
fake.
don't like it. They
I
don't
can
care for it?
unplug you real quick.
No.
Okay,
This
all
is
right,
the
please
important stuff,
do.
though, Alex.
If there's anything faker and gayer than talking about remote viewing Mars, it's talking about living for billions or millions of years.
Right, sounds like something
that is
transhumanists want.
ridiculous.
Yep.
Yes,
Yep.
absolutely on its face, absurd.
Yep.
Yeah,
I agree.
No.
Everything's fake. Do you know this country was founded before anyone even knew about dinosaurs? Like there was no dinosaur.
Oh yeah,
bones.
it was in the mid 1800s.
Like just after George Washington was around, was
Right,
when they
yeah,
found their
no
first
dinosaurs.
alleged dinosaur bones.
There's gators,
dragon
and,
bones, maybe.
and dragons.
Where are you with dragons?
There's
I think
gators
maybe.
and dragons.
Gators
Sure,
and dragons.
That's right.
That's the most Kentucky thing you've ever said. Gators and dragons, people. That was the name of your mascots, actually.
That's
in high school.
about it. Yeah,
Fake
no,
guy.
this is absolutely ridiculous. This idea of remote viewing
And
Mars.
there's a list you can look up from this guy, the number 1 remote viewer, and that's just he's not the number 1 champion. He's like the first guy they probably drugged, you know, with a bunch of their acid that they had Eli Lilly make for MK Ultra. Like just give that guy lots of drugs.
Hey, look, man, we've been through so many psyops, and like psyop is like so widespread now. There is no bigger psyop that has captured more brains than evolution.
Yeah, oh yeah.
That it is absolutely ridiculous.
Me for a long
makes
time.
no me too. Sure, of course. Because you're so bullied into believing this. You're stuck in a corner. It's just like it makes no sense. There is no evidence. There is no basis for evolution. I see this over the weekend. There was a renewed discourse about this on Twitter with all the evolutionary bio, Colin Wright.
Oh, is that why they were talking about?
Yes.
I saw Bryson Gray talking. I was like, yeah.
Yes, I mean, because there was this new AI video that got generated where it's like an ape that walks into being a human, and it's just like,
Give me a break.
These people, they have lost their minds,
Yeah.
and maybe they never had them.
Right.
Like
No,
the evolution stuff is so stupid.
Yeah, and what did Darwin's family also give us?
Eugenics.
Yes, sir.
And you know what? They talk about the Nazis having eugenics stuff.
Yeah.
But at that time, everybody was talking about eugenics.
Over here, we loved eugenics.
Everywhere.
Yes.
Yes.
It was a big
It was a
deal.
widespread goofball idea that gained a lot of traction across lots of countries and lots of cultures.
Yep. Just south of where I grew up. I might have just said this on a recent show here. I think with Paranoid American. Just south of me in Cold Spring Harbor, there was a whole eugenics factory. I think it dates back to like the 20s or 30s. It was no joke. So yeah, I don't buy into any of this stuff. I think they've just been trying to divorce everyone from the beauty of God and the power of God.
Yes,
and
that's
they want to
the
control.
goal.
They want to control your perception of everything and make you feel very small.
Yeah.
And that the government is your only protector, right? And that is so bogus.
It's a three punch strategy. It was Marx, Darwin, Freud.
Yep.
That was the three punches
The
that
attack
really
on everything:
knocked
your
out
physical reality,
yes.
and your spiritual reality, and your perception.
That's exactly
and
right.
it just slaughtered all that, and we're in it today.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people are starting to be like,
a lot of people are out of it, but a lot of people are still stuck in it.
Yeah, because we're having a bit of an existential renaissance.
Yes.
You know, and I love that. So that's how I feel with the Mars stuff. But I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting that these are all becoming like conversations again now. And I'm always like, why? Like, what are they preparing us for?
Yeah.
Right? Because the Mars thing, although I think that's been out longer, I'm sure it is. But it's like we got Elon talking about Mars now. You know, and now we have this remote viewing.
Obsessed with Mars, which is so bizarre to me. I don't understand that.
They're anti-Earth.
I don't like. I remember like years ago there was like some big space launch that was about to happen. It was on every. I did everything that I could to not watch that. I don't understand the space stuff. I don't understand the rocket stuff. Like I don't get it. I find it so uninteresting. And so boring. Like there's so much to deal with here.
Right. Yeah. Now I'm noticing that there's big accounts on Twitter that are basically getting paid to be they're right-leaning accounts, but they're climate alarmists now. But in terms of the Earth being destroyed, and so it's becoming pro-Mars propaganda. Like Mario Narwhal, whatever his name is. I never remember his
Mario
name.
Narwhal, yeah. Nawfal?
Whatever his name is.
Yeah.
He's one of those accounts.
The dolphin.
Yeah.
The fake unicorn dolphin thing.
Oh, jeez. Don't get me started on dolphins in the government.
Been there, done that.
Been there, done that. Do we have a caller?
We do, but you know what? Chris Carr's mother actually sent us a great
sweet
link here.
Everywhere.
It's wait, are we here? Hold on. Here
Awesome.
we go. Okay. This is the Leonard.
Uh-oh.
Yep, the tinfoil hat stuff.
Article after article.
Okay.
Yeah, this
There
is
a
the video that
long
I saw.
history
Oh,
of
yeah,
brain
she's got
computer
it. Yeah,
interfaces
that's
and
right.
doctors using electrodes and implants to control patients' brains. And at times, these brain surgeries have been met with disastrous results, which brings us to the story of Leonard Kyle.
Oh.
Okay, this is that guy you were saying.
Yeah.
Well,
Control
I
autism.
don't know. I don't know if there's like a
Was
good.
implanted-
Well,
overview.
it jumps to part 2 at a certain point, but
Control the human mind.
you know, it's
All the way back in the
it's a
19
lengthier video.
Yeah, this is a good.
delivering an
This is a
electric
good
shock to
rabbit
a
hole for people to go
specific
down.
area
'Cause
of
I
a
didn't know about
patient's
this.
brain.
No. This is
Depending on the area of the
basically
brain
where I
hit by the
drew all of
shock,
my
the patient could be
information
turned
from.
from
So
happy
whether
to
I was
sad
wrong
to
or right,
scared
this is
to
where it came
violently
from.
angry
I'm pretty
with the press
sure.
of a button. Delgado famously demonstrated just how powerful his technology was by hooking up electrodes to a bull's brain.
Whoa.
Yeah,
He then
mind
stood
control.
in the path of the charging bull and stopped it dead in its tracks with a jolt of electricity from a remote control device.
Oh man.
There is so much more on Dr. Delgado's experiments and
You gotta
his
read this book.
Check it out for yourself,
Yeah,
folks.
yeah.
I just
Well,
wanted to
this
show it
does
off.
connect with Neuralink. You know, the animal experiments are tragic that have been reported on Elon's side.
Yeah.
I think he calls it monkey Disneyland. I'm pretty sure that's what they call it. And there's been a
crazy.
ton of really bad things that have happened. I feel like brains exploding or like the implant exploding out of the brain. You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I'm not into it.
We do have a caller, but he's not here right now.
Okay. So then while we wait for him, Chris, the whole reason we initially were like talking about you coming on the show is talking about movies.
Yeah.
And your idea of like the red pill narrative in a movie. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
So tell us about that.
Yeah, so when you think about a red pill movie, you think about The Matrix, which it, like literalized that idea of the red pill that's kind of become like a cultural phenomenon now. So that's a very literal version of you get red pill, you go into one world. But I think that there's also kind of like a subgenre that you could build of red pill coded movies.
Okay.
In the sense that, you know, it's not a movie that's necessarily made to red pill you, but it does.
Right.
Because of the story that it tells. I think the penultimate example of this is like a movie like Chinatown. Have you seen Chinatown?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
He's got the whole, his nose is broken the whole time.
Yeah, and like, I say that that's probably like a prime example because that movie is, it helps you understand that no matter how bad you think it is, it's so much worse.
Right.
Because it's a movie that moves from, okay, there's adultery to there is widespread corruption and crime.
Like a deep state.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then beyond that, it's just like, okay, so the people that are perpetuating and driving this corruption and crime, in their family, there is incest and rape.
Right.
You know?
So dark.
So like that's like the ultimate dark red pill movie. And I think there's a lot of movies that fit in that category. I mean, briefly, like there's The Insider, which I was talking about,
Right.
like from 1999. Al Pacino is just like, you know, there was a whistleblower that was going against big tobacco, and he just went to CNN to sell the story, and like he was getting death threats for blowing the whistle on big tobacco, and the CNN guy, you know, put his life on the line to report on his story, and then the story ended up getting killed, and the CNN guy ended up getting screwed. Like he didn't have a story, and like the guy that put his life on the line didn't get his story told.
Is it based on a real story?
It is based on a true story. Jeffrey Wigand.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a true story. Yeah, Insider's based on a true story.
What was the whistleblowing? Do you remember? Like, what were they saying?
That cigarettes, because I think at a certain point they talk in the movie that like there was like the seven dwarfs, like the seven big CEOs from the big tobacco companies go and they swear that, you know, our cigarettes are not addictive, is what they say.
Right.
But of course, they were adding in things to make them extremely addictive.
Yep.
And it's not just tobacco. It was all about the additives, and it was all about the addiction.
Yep.
And this whistleblower was saying that that's what was going on, and that was something that could not be allowed to be heard.
Man, that's like an Upton Sinclair like jungle.
Expose.
I
would say that it's beyond that.
Right, because
like,
this is actually the jungle is people falling into the vats, and they're just being like,
Upton Sinclair's left-wing narrative has been called into question.
It's true.
And I'm not necessarily sure how much I buy into that.
Are we having Upton Sinclair revisionism?
I think it's time for that.
He was a hero throughout journalism school, you know.
Well, you see that's your red flag right there. Yeah.
As I said it, I'm like, oh yeah, ding. Yeah. Why was he a hero in those death camps?
Without getting into like all the details and you know bogging us down on that, I mean like a movie like Bigger Than Life from I think '57. It talks about, I mean, it's a red pill on suburbia and the mania that's like under lurking suburban life. You got Candyman from 1992, the original.
Great movie.
Like, did you see it?
Candyman?
Yeah.
The horror movie?
The original one.
Oh, yeah.
Terrifying.
We talked about
from the 80s, right?
Yeah. 92. 92,
okay, yeah.
I think.
Oh, yeah.
91.
That's a scary movie.
Yes, it is.
Because I remember being a kid, and we had a WPIX. So we had a TV at some point, and it was only 2, 4,
just for that
5,
movie.
7, 9, and 11. And 11 was WPIX.
Uh-huh.
And like there was nothing on that my parents let me watch, but I would sneak in to either watch Howard Stern late at night.
Right.
Definitely shouldn't watch that, or WPIX movies, which was always, it felt like they only played Terminator, Alien, and Candyman.
That's a good channel. I mean, look at
it was
that.
Awesome.
That's really dope.
Yeah, it definitely affected me.
It does.
Oh, I refuse to watch that movie again.
Yeah, you watched it
terrifying.
once and you wouldn't do it again.
I can't do it.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
It's my second favorite horror movie of all time. Because this is a red pill movie because it really helps you understand the greasy, light-bearing nefariousness of evil. Like, the things that Candyman says to this woman who is totally clueless about there being a spiritual dimension or a thing of evil. You watch this movie and you get the sense of, wow, there is something that is so evil that it can like lure you into its presence and not let you go. You don't even have to consent to it. You can just be clueless. You can just not know that something like this is out there, and you can be drifted into this world of pure evil.
Yeah. I remember when we got that TV, it was a giant Magnavox, and we had the VCR, right? And so we always used to go to Village Video, which is a little video spot in town. My dad was obsessed with like those movies. So I'm a little kid walking around the video aisle of the horror. It's like Hellraiser's video, like Pinhead.
Sure.
That really stuck out as like terrifying. Krueger,
of course,
all those things. Oh man, I'm like, why was I even allowed to be around it? Like I wouldn't let my kids around that right now at this age. You know?
Yeah.
Because I think it infects you. Would you say Network? The Network is a red pill movie?
It is a red pill movie, but I would say that some of Paddy Chayefsky's other movies are even more red pills.
Like
because before Paddy Chayefsky is not like your average screenwriter. Like he was the author of the movie, and they just had like directors come in and make it happen.
Yeah.
Before Network was a movie called The Hospital with George C. Scott.
Okay.
So my overall thesis with Paddy Chayefsky is that he had almost prophetic, and he was a Jew, so he had like almost like old school Old Testament Jewish insights into the problems that we were going to be facing.
Right.
Medicine, media, and mankind. Medicine, he tackled the hospital.
Okay.
And he broke down exactly the problems with the medical industrial complex.
Interesting.
Like at the opening of the hospital, there's a patient that's wheeled into the hospital and is basically murdered because they were in the emergency room, like systematically murdered.
Yep.
And the doctor shows up and he was just like, "Where did you nurses learn your medicine? In Dachau?" Like,
wow.
So medicine, media, network, obviously.
Yep.
Like he was totally at the forefront of that. Pauline Kael was totally clueless when she gave that movie a pan.
I love that movie. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know, that's the movie where like you've probably seen the memes based on like, I'm mad as hell, I'm not going to take it anymore. And
Right.
The network allows their anchor, who's losing his mind, would you say? He's like losing it, but he seems sane to me.
More lucid. More and more lucid.
They think he's crazy, but they're like using him for ratings,
Yes.
right? But the deeper he goes down his rabbit hole and the more they allow him to say, he's actually beginning to subvert their entire system.
Right.
And one of the greatest scenes ever is Ned Beatty's character when he brings Howard Beale,
Howard Beale,
into the like this giant conference room.
You are meddling with the forces of nature, Mr. Beale.
Dude, I love that movie. I used to teach that scene. I love that scene.
I became obsessed with Network in high schoel. I printed out to the extent that I printed out the screenplay and indexed every scene. Because,
I highly recommend everyone watching
that movie. It just as a text alone.
Yep.
Like it is.
The dialogue is crazy.
It lives.
Yep.
You know?
It's exactly what we're going through now.
Yes.
In terms of media. So you're right.
So that's
about him
media.
Seeing that. Yeah. And was
and then Mankind. The last movie that Paddy Chayefsky wrote was a movie called Altered States.
I didn't see that either.
It was Bill Hurt's first movie, William Hurt's first movie. Ken Russell directed it in a way that Paddy Chayefsky got outraged over, so he kind of like denied, he kind of like reclaimed, he's just like, whatever. Like he didn't consider this one of his movies, although the script there, and it's about a guy that is so deep into the science world that he is doing like deprivation. What do you do when you get let like
deprivation tanks?
Yes.
Yeah.
He's getting deprivation tank and he's like having these hallucinations. At a certain point in this movie, he's so deep into the science of things that he de-evolves into an ape. And he becomes like this savage psycho that's like a murderous ape.
Wow.
And the whole movie kind of ends in this soup of like just like sinking into the earth of the cosmos.
Wow.
So Paddy Chayefsky, he understood the problem with medicine, the problem with media, and the problem with mankind at a very like heightened level.
Okay, so then zoom back out to the idea of the red pill movie. Are these purposely being made to help people, you think, by some, or are they used by like predictive programming purposes?
No, I don't think it's predictive. I mean, you could pick your case, but I think that the best red pill movies are just people telling good fucking stories.
Yeah, it's rare now.
It is, and that's the thing. Is that's why these movies have a shelf life. Is because they're just trying to tell real stories. Like you think about Polanski and Chinatown, Robert Towne telling China. It's just like they're trying to tell a story that's going to rock you to your root and shake your teeth.
Great
movie. That's a red pill movie, right?
Yeah.
You're learning about this super
deeply
movie. Spiritual deep state.
Yeah, and the whole filmography of Stanley Kubrick. I was thinking like, Eyes Wide Shut and
Clockwork
Doctor
Orange.
Strangelove. All of them. I mean, like
every single one.
Everyone.
Someone mentioned Midsommar. And someone also
Midsommar.
mentioned Wizard of Oz.
That was literally just about.
That's really
Wizard
good.
of Oz?
That's really good.
Wizard of Oz is. I would consider that a red pill movie.
They said Wizard of Oz is pretty esoteric about momentary supply and drugging populations falling asleep in poppy fields.
The poppy fields. Yep. And a man behind the curtain. That's another type of deep state to a degree. Like I think there's something about that movie where you fall into the trance world. Like maybe you're in the actual real world, or realizing that there's another dimension to this world, because you're left in the end of that movie being like, well, it wasn't totally fake, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Or you can say it was a dream, but I think it was real.
Yeah, it's kind of a dream movie, but I would say that if you had to pick one red pill coated movie over another, I would say that Return to Oz is a more red pill movie than
that one's really
gotta
dark.
see it's so dark.
Yeah.
But it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's because it really deals. Return to Oz really deals with the danger of being a kid in a situation where you are being
taken
reprogrammed.
Right.
Which we should have Fusa Bulk. I've tried getting her on the show.
Fusa Bulk?
Fusa Bulk.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I've reached out to her on Instagram.
Who is that? I don't know who that is.
She's the main character in
Fusa
Return to Oz.
Bulk? She was in The Craft
The
and
Craft.
American History X.
I know both those movies.
She's very into like
She's the chick in
witchcraft.
that. Yeah.
Oh wait, she's like the black-haired witch.
Yes.
Yeah.
In The Craft?
Yeah.
Oh, that's her name.
Yes.
Fusa Bulk. I know.
Of course, that's her name.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
No, but in real life, she is really into like witchcraft and stuff.
Interesting.
I've reached out to her. She hasn't got back. Maybe you should reach out to her.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'll try.
She'd be really cool to have on, especially to talk about Return to Oz. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. All right.
Oh my God. Yeah.
How much longer did that come out after the original one?
85.
85. Okay,
So the original was
still-
39. Return to Oz was 85.
The Wizard of Oz, I feel like they did a lot of weird trauma in the making of that movie.
Yeah.
That
Well, Judy Garland for sure.
That's what I'm saying. Like
and even the Tin Man, like they were sprayed him with poisonous
that's right.
silver
That's right.
spray paint. Yeah.
And they made her. She was so young. I want to say 15 or so.
Something
but
like
they
that,
wanted her
yeah.
to look 11, so they wrapped her in a corset. They made her smoke like a ton of cigarettes a day
wow.
because they're
I didn't
giving
know
her
that.
diet pills, and they thought the cigarettes would also help. And then her life just went to hell after that. Even though she had success, there's a lot of really horrible stories about what they did to her.
She was an early example of childhood abuse in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost like you're punished for showing that kind of a narrative, Like maybe that's how you go through life, because like I feel like we've been punished to certain degrees, not like that, but like certain degrees when you're like ostracized from society, from your old friends. In the last 5 years, especially, a lot of us went through that where we saw another world completely. We saw the actual dimension that we should be seeing, and other people refuse to see that dimension, and then we're exiled from that world.
Yeah,
happily so.
That's right.
So we weren't like, maybe some of us were actually punished, like violently, clearly, but
I had a phone call recently with Pete Quinones. I was talking to him about some stuff that's going on, and like one of the first things I said was just like thank you, because he has kind of a revisionist history podcast, and I was just like thank you so much for helping re-educate me, because like I've got a pretty awful public education in school, and he was just like, it's not fun. Like he was just like, when you tell the truth, like you get into a lot of trouble, and it's tough. And I was just like, oh, thank you. He was just like, yeah, thanks, but it's kind of a problem.
Yeah,
and that's true.
Especially as a parent.
Yes.
Like how much do you let them know everything's fake?
I know.
Because like you ostracize them early on. That's why I think it's important who you surround yourselves with and the friends they have, because I'm like, my kids know about fake clouds. Like that's verifiable, and like they're telling people at parties about fake clouds, and we were at some dinner party like a year ago, and our son was like, they serve salmon.
Oh no!
And
you gave us the salmon speech,
and we didn't tell him like don't bring up the salmon thing. Like that's a home thing. But like
that's a home thing.
Like,
you have to like this.
For those who don't know, salmon's part bug now. For like since the 90s, because they bioengineered salmon from like decades ago, and the FDA allowed them to be fed to the people, and then all the salmon farms that are bioengineered salmon farms out west, they keep breaking loose from their farms. So they've been mating with the general population for decades now. And you can't stop it. And if you've noticed, the color of salmon has changed over the years. And it's like true. It could be dyes, but it's also, I think, because they're part bug. So we don't eat salmon anymore. But like you could make the case for almost everything out there right now is bad for you.
Yeah.
But they brought out salmon. He's like, oh, we don't eat salmon. That's bug. And he was like 7. I'm like... And he's right. That is poison. I don't want my child eating that. It's disgusting. But
Lord, you want to bring in a caller?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Waylon, are you with us?
Hello. Uh-oh.
Hello. Oh, here we go.
Can you raise my volume a bit?
Yeah.
Sir, can you hear us?
Yes. What's up, fellas?
Hey, how
okay.
are you? Yeah, I hear him great. Welcome to the show. How are you today?
Doing well, man. It's your birthday. Happy birthday.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. We're happy to have you with us. So it was like we talked briefly online the other day. And I was like,
Okay.
yeah, it sounds like a person who should call in.
Cool.
So where do we start? So you're a farmer, huh?
Yes. Yes. Sorry. There's a lot of mixed matches going on over here. I'm actually live as well, so I'm trying to get my audience to come on over to see you guys. I am a farmer. I'm trying to do it commercially, so I call myself a farmer. But it's slow going. Trying to learn it.
What made you get into that? And like, what do you farm?
So I have I'm muted right now.
No.
No, they should be able to hear me. They 1 second.
Oh,
Oh,
Okay, here it is. They're gonna have to hear us. I have to hear both now for some
are
reason.
you
Anyway,
saying you're having
I found
audio
a lot of
issues
things.
on your end too?
Yeah, it's so that my audience can hear us. Anyway, I hear everything. So I actually farm a lot of different things. I'm trying to learn basically how to do all of it.
Yeah.
that's
during
great.
our
I think
lives.
that's really important. When did you start?
This is going to be coming up on 4 years now. I try to do it indoors, but it's really just to kind of get people to think about what we could do indoors, what we could like supplement, or just all sorts of.
Have you been having success? Like, it's tough. I grew up around a lot of farms, and a lot of them right now, like generational farms, have been around, since some of them since the country started up in New York and in Pennsylvania, and they are slowly dying off because they're being purchased by giant corporations, and people are just not willing to farm anymore. So it's rare to talk to someone who's just now picking it up. How is it going?
Well, it's
Is BlackRock coming to buy
very
you?
interesting to say the least. What I've been trying to do is aquaponics, which I found out later was like next level stuff. Trying to start jumping in, head first and the worst and the hardest things. But I think it's going to be overall. I don't know, not yet, but I think they are going to get into that. It's going to be more and more important as people get into things like farming in places in the world where farms can't really exist. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know much about the indoor stuff. What I was seeing growing up was just all the old school farming, and it's crazy to see how much of it's gone. Even when I was in Georgia writing a book, a lot of those generational farms were just being bought out, and like it seems like it's just almost undoable for a lot of these people these days because they're being priced out of what it takes to farm, but also then giant corporations are waving giant wads of cash in front of them, and they're just like, we're going to give up.
Oh, for sure. I actually think that there's something between the past and the future that we need to find, like the sweet spot in between, because the old techniques meets the new technology, and I think there's a lot of different examples of that. And for one thing is that every person could do just like a tiny little bit more towards being more self-sustainable. That's kind of my main like spiel, you know what I mean? Like all of us could do, even in an apartment complex, you can have a little herb or whatever, a little basil, something that you could grow next to your windowsill.
Mm-hmm.
And I think everybody just needs to think about that more. Maybe not be a farmer, but maybe think about how important it is, and don't be thinking that your food just comes from the grocery store. Like just trying to move that needle towards the side of like just having it in the mainstream culture. That's why I know about you guys and Tim Cass and the whole gang, because the whole push towards culture, it makes so much sense, because I kind of was more of a political beast, but then it's like, well, it makes more sense to try to drive culture. Let's try to just make it fun, make it more entertaining. So I try to think about like the late night talk shows, the entertainment shows that we grew up with, all the Jimmys,
Oh yeah.
10 different Jimmys and the Conans. What are they doing? They are using entertainment. They're using the glitz and the glamour and the music to dress up one thing, and that's politics, right? And I thought, well, why not do that same thing, but for sustainability, for things that everyone, you know, has to deal with. Every person has to eat, right?
Yep.
Like there's no simpler phrase being said, but I don't hear a lot of people reminding each other that, you know, like we can disagree all day long, but we still both got to get food in our bellies.
Yeah, no, it's incredibly important. People started to realize how important that was during like lockdowns. But so you said you'd been doing this for 4 years. Was this idea born out of the idea of lockdowns and what happened with people having problems with the grocery stores?
Somewhat. I actually was kind of getting politically active around the uh, Tea Party days, I guess. I
Okay.
was the delivery driver. I was listening to Rush Limbaugh and
Sick.
Glenn Beck, and
Yep.
you know they were a little bit beyond my time as far as kind of, how do I put this, kind of old and fuddy duddy, and kind of they weren't hip and cool for their day, but they were making a lot of sense. And I thought, okay, let's look into this. And then you had, who was it, Breitbart? I think, was like, politics is downstream from culture. So I'm
Yep.
like, I started thinking about it. I actually was talking about it for about a year or two before COVID. And then I was like, holy crap, I thought I was going to be too late. I thought there's no way I can get this whole vision I had off the ground now, because everything's falling apart. But I think maybe I still have some time.
Yeah. So when we talked, you said you had some like historical stories or something like that. Could you share any?
Oh, what I meant was, I'm interested in history because of the old school ways meeting new technology. For instance, the aquaponics is an old school thing. That's from, you know, Mayans were doing that thousands of years ago. And so I'm like, let's try to create new ways to do that same natural process that they used. You know, the fish and the water from the lakes and
Right.
using that.
Will you use robots?
Right. Well, they're actually doing that. I'm seeing some AI and robots using in a lot of farms now, which is kind of freaky, but we'll see how it goes.
Can you tell me which farm so I don't buy their food? I don't
What does
want
that look like?
robot hands on my food.
It's funny. I mean, they're using these giant drones that carry liquid, so you can just use them to spray everything with drones now. You don't need a pilot with the old bi-wing, you know, drunken pilot scenario. It doesn't
Yeah.
happen now.
Yeah, that's crazy. Where are you at with like using insecticide and stuff and the idea of like what's organic and what's not? Because I know that's like a debate within that whole world.
Oh, it's crazy, man. I've actually been getting into the communities on X that are like really the people that have the knowledge, but maybe they're just not so fun to talk to. You know, I'm trying to bridge that gap. And those people are really, they talk about glyphosate, you know, that's such a huge one. Um, it's kind of good that they're getting some of these chemicals out of the food. Hopefully that's a good thing, but we got a long ways to go. I think nature does kind of balance itself out. They find different things that eat plastics, and you know, there's a lot of good examples of nature figuring it out. We just have to leave room for that, you know.
Yeah, I wrote this story once about onion farmers. There's a big onion farmland by me in New York called Pine Island, and a lot of them were doing whatever they had to do to be organic. Because I know there's like a bunch of hoops you have to jump through to be approved to be or quote unquote organic. And then there was a huge flood. And this is like on a old giant flat field that they say was part of a glacier. Who knows? Supposedly mastodon skeletons pop up out of the ground there with the onions. But this giant flood that happened, like this is in 10 or 15 years ago, it brought all the sewage waste into the onion fields. And it's just like they were still considered organic. All the farmers were like, that was so weird. Like we jumped through all these hoops to be organic. The sewage infected everything.
Ew.
And they still sold the onions.
Ew.
Right? Yeah, it's crazy. Wow. Crazy story.
Oh, it's nuts.
And the state was just like, it's fine.
Right.
It's fine.
That organic label is basically just BS. Like
Yes.
if you look into the parameters that you have to quote follow to be organic, there's like a certain amount of feet it has to be away from a non-organic crop.
Yep.
But like we know there's like wind exists, you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of simple things that show you that that's kind of BS.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, wow, you just reminded me. Remember, so for Chris and Alex, since you both worked on the Inverted World book, remember the boll weevil? Like that insect that it just traveled on the wind and destroyed all the crops.
Oh yeah.
Down south, and people didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And it was just like a plague, destroyed all the cotton crops. And eventually, after like years and years of them dealing with this bug, they realized the only thing they could do was bioengineer the cotton to basically kill off the bug. And some towns made a lot of money off of it because I think they switched their crops and it made them a lot of money. I forget what town it was, but there's like a giant statue to the boll weevil in that town to this day. It's crazy stuff, man. But what else do you got for us, sir?
You know, I kind of have ideas for a sort of a farm that can be self-sustainable, but also generate green electricity. And I have all kinds of plans, guys. But it's been awesome talking with you. Definitely, we should do it again for sure. But yeah, I have this whole thought of like gym that is generating electricity, but I think they're starting to do that now. It makes a lot more sense. But,
that's awesome. Is there like a website or anything where you sell stuff that people can go to?
I'm starting to get some merch. You know, I'm just by myself. You know, I'm just a guy trying to do it all by himself. But yeah, I'm on Locals. I have a Locals community where I do a lot of private stuff. We're doing game night right now, where everyone's listening to us on my game night, and we're going to be playing some games and just kind of a fun hangout with a little self-sustainable, you know, lean to it. But
you said
yeah,
you were
that's
streaming
about it.
live. Where are you streaming live?
Yeah, where can people find you?
We are streaming on Rumble right now on
Nice.
The Indoor Farmer on Rumble.
Cool.
Capital T, The Indoor Farmer. Yeah, I am also in the and now your Discord, which that was crazy. It kicked me out of your Discord.
Ugh.
Literally, I could not. It was gone.
Our Discord
blame
is
Chris
done.
Karr.
Whoa.
We blame the
Chris's
gremlins.
fault.
The
It's
gremlins
called Discord. So I mean,
is negative in the title.
Yeah, it's nothing but chaos.
Right.
Yeah, we know. Sorry about that, dude. But thank you for joining us. Appreciate that.
Thanks, guys. Really, really great to talk to you.
Me
Have a good
too.
night.
Later. Speaking of Georgia, I got an update recently. There's something going on. Remember that hotel I stayed at? That
Yeah.
where the witches
I remember it well.
like ran it, and they. So for those who don't know, like Chris was the editor of the book, and Alex is the audio editor of the serialized audio stories.
And in case you missed it in the beginning, Chris and I have been together for 16 years.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
They sort of know each other.
We've been
sort of know
editing
each
for a
other.
while.
Yeah.
We just edit. That's all we do.
Welcome to Marriage Counseling with Shane Cashman. So
That's
like,
why we have our hats on.
yeah. So I heard that there's like some sort of mystery happening at that hotel now, and it's like I don't know if it's a murder mystery, but that hotel is haunted. For those who didn't hear that story from that book, I spent all this time in Georgia looking for the Confederate gold that was allegedly left there by Jefferson Davis as he dissolved the Confederacy in that town just after Richmond being burned down by the Confederates, so they say, as the Union was moving in. Took the trains down, eventually landed in Washington, Georgia. Shout out to Clint Brantley and his family who hosted me down there for many, many different times. I'd go down there, but so like the book immediately went from I'm going to look for gold to like, oh, there's aliens and murder mysteries
And witches.
and like,
Yeah.
these dudes want to like skin us alive, you know, and which we had the voicemails for that. I think they're still on this
Oh,
on this
yeah, whatever
website,
happened
right?
to that? They
I think
just
they're still.
stopped?
I think we
That
put
was
them in
good.
the videos. They're somewhere on this channel.
Yeah. I've been trying to share those old episodes this last week. But
Those were crazy.
I'll keep throwing them in there.
Yeah, I forget
when
where
I
that is.
can.
It's in one of them because that message is amazing. Because that guy had like a Bayou accent. He was so mad. But anyway, in the center of this town is this old hotel that I heard one of the first people to ever be hanged in Georgia by the state was buried there. And so I was like, I'm going to stay at this hotel and, see what goes on there. I've heard all these different stories, and there was like a trap door I heard about that led down to the old graveyard below the hotel, which was eventually moved to another graveyard. So they say. Mm-hmm. So I get my room there. It's this beautiful old hotel in the middle of the town square in the shadow of a giant Confederate statue. It's pretty sick. And I'm like, I got to ask someone about like the trap door. And I go to talk to her, the lady, the concierge, and she's a witch, straight up witch. She's got like Anubis on her counter, and like she's learning about mortuary arts. and she's got all like the herbs and stuff. She's telling me about witchcraft. I'm like, okay. Turns out like everyone who ran this hotel is a witch. Like there was an Appalachian witch. Appalachia or Appalachia?
Appalachia.
Good. Okay.
I still can't
Well, you
get
would
it
know.
right.
That's why I asked.
Yeah.
So like everyone there was a witch, and it was just like a super dark vibe. And they gave me I got to the trap door, went downstairs, saw what was allegedly the graveyard at one point. And that led out to where, if you go downstairs in the basement and outside, you see the tree where she was hanged. I forget her name now. There's so many weird stories in that place. But yeah, now there's something up with the owner, like one of those witches, I guess.
She going back?
I'm like, I don't know. I'm afraid. I'm like, can I do it again? That was because I spent a lot of time down there. And there's a lot of lovely people, but there's a lot of people who are really upset that you go down there, especially with my Yankee accent.
Yeah.
Like if I didn't have Clint with me, who's from there, like his family is from that town, but predating the revolution, right? So they're down there forever. And if he wasn't like, I kept considering him like my Virgil, right? Is that
right.
Dante?
Yeah.
Right? Like he was my Virgil through Washington, Georgia. So yeah, I don't know the articles. I'm not going to waste time pulling it up, but something weird is happening. And I'm like thinking like, do I go back to Washington, Georgia?
Georgia's weird. We went to Savannah once, and it was.
That's my favorite. I love that place.
It's beautiful, but it was weird as hell.
What was weird?
No,
about
it's not as weird as South Carolina. South Carolina is a weird place.
I mean, Savannah was pretty bad.
I love Savannah, but that's like a
it's
spooky
beautiful.
town.
Yeah, it was.
It's a really spooky
nice
town.
beaches. I mean,
Yeah. There's good food there, but it's like another one of those towns that's been captured by crazy people.
I guess
It's a
so,
college
yeah.
town,
Yeah.
When I was still teaching, that was my dream. I was like, I'm going to teach at whatever that college is. I'm totally spacing on it now.
Yeah.
That art school, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the main art
Yes.
school.
But
in Savannah.
I'm
Yeah.
SCAD.
SCAD.
But
Yes.
We went there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Checked it out.
wasn't going to happen. They did not want me a part of that. And I'm
Right.
glad it didn't happen. But that's a great town. Great ghost stories. Great Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. It's a great
Right.
book based
Right.
on it's a murder mystery in Savannah. But yeah, I love that town.
It's also something with the trees. It's like those mossy trees.
I love those
It's
trees.
like it's just a vibe.
Yeah, I forget the name of those trees, but they're incredible. And in St. Augustine, those
In
trees.
Florida, yeah.
In Florida, they use those trees to stuff their pillows. And the story is that's what started the fire that burnt that city down. Because it's the oldest.
Really?
I think it's the oldest city in the country.
Yeah, it is
but
really old.
So
yeah.
I've heard.
Yeah.
Who knows? There's always like like O'Leary's cow probably didn't start the Chicago fire.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
a dragon. Clearly. But yeah, it's wild. So I was thinking about Georgia a lot lately, and that book,
Georgia on my mind.
Georgia on my mind.
Yeah.
What do you think about this UFO story?
Which one?
There's a story. Can you pull up, Alex? Can you see if you
Sure.
can find the story about? Let's see. How do you look it up? UFO attack Russians.
Oh God.
Basically, UFO allegedly attacked some people and turned them to stone. What do you think of this story?
Can I use Newsweek?
Yeah, pull it up. Perfect.
Yeah. We can do the corporate press. Yeah, that's fine.
Let's see.
Absolutely insane.
Turn people
What's
into
happening?
stone.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
When is this story from? Okay, yeah, it did come out a while ago, but it's for some reason circling again. So, a spate of mysterious objects in the sky requiring military intervention has followed on the heels of a similarly unexplained incident in Russia last month. Oh, here's a newer one. On Sunday, the U.S. Air Force downed an unidentified flying object over Lake Huron in Michigan near the Canadian border. The previous day, an object flying over Alaska was shot down. I don't know if this is the right story, actually.
Oh, I don't know.
But try to look up one where it's like about people being turned to stone.
Oh God. Yeah.
I mean, my view of this is that like anything that's like alien or from another world is some sort of demonic projection.
Okay.
It's a demon.
Yeah. I mean, and like a demonic presence can sort of present itself to humans in the stratosphere,
Right.
in a way that could monkey with your senses.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, like alien. I don't really buy into all
My
that.
perception of aliens has changed in the same way my perception
Yeah.
of evolution has changed.
Sure.
I don't think I was considering. Is this So look at this. Alleged CIA report. Russian soldiers turned to stone during UFO interception. All right.
God,
Look at all these ads.
I know. Always.
Yeah.
Get
It's
out of
relentless.
here. Get out of here.
Yeah.
Joe Rogan shares a story. Popular podcast host Joe Rogan. I'm surprised they didn't say like far right.
Yeah, far right.
What
Far-right
website is this?
fascist Nazi.
The Jerusalem Post.
Oh, wow. Even more surprising. Popular podcast host Joe Rogan recently shared details from a 250-page report allegedly written by the CIA, shedding light on the incident. The original reports, collected by KGB agents, that's a bunch of red flags have gone off already.
There's a lot of...
In the late 1980s were later covered by Ukrainian media and documented in a classified intelligence file in 1993. According to Rogan, the report suggests that a saucer-shaped spacecraft flew low above a Russian army unit during routine training exercises. Then a member of the unit fired a surface-to-air missile, hitting the UFO, and it crashed nearby. 5 humanoid creatures, short in stature with large heads and black eyes, probably like the balloon. Oh, my balloon fell down.
No, it's right behind
It's
you.
right there.
Oh,
There it is.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I'm like way off. Then a member of the unit fired a surface. Okay, and it crashed. Oh, yeah, I can go down.
What is happening here? What is this?
I want you to click more.
Yeah,
Why do they do this?
Yeah.
What's up with websites today? It's just like I'm trying to get a recipe, like the recipe websites.
Oh, I know.
It's like you got to read like 1,000 things of prose to get down to the recipe they stole from some other blog. Okay, according to Rogan, who read the report, the surviving soldiers testified that the aliens merged into a single object. So like a station in Bill and Ted. Right? Remember the two guys become super station, whatever they call themselves? Station. Yeah. They merged into a single object after exiting the spaceship. The object then transformed into a spherical shape, emitting a rapid humming sound. Chris, are you buying this?
No, I'm not buying it at all. No.
What do you think? What do you think? Do you think we're capable of making things like this? Like, think it's governments that can do
They
this
turn them into
somehow?
pillars. This actually reminds me of Return to Oz.
Oh,
In
really?
Return to Oz,
Yeah.
they turn the people into pillars, into stone.
Is that what happens?
Yeah. Oh, he said that suddenly. Go ahead, right here, this part here.
Okay, so he said that suddenly it disintegrated into a brilliant white powder, rapidly expanding in size until it exploded into a blinding light. At that moment, all 23 soldiers watching the phenomenon turned into stone pillars.
Okay, where's the video?
Okay.
Is there a video?
Where's the video?
I mean,
It's quite possible that something supernatural, I mean, supernatural, we can parse that term. There could be problems there.
Yep.
But, like, it's quite possible that something supernatural happened. Somebody saw that. They don't have the presence of mind to be able to diagnose what actually happened there.
Right.
In terms of the origin of that, I don't know. I mean,
Could be
like,
more of the remote viewing thing where it's like a war of stories, like
It
a
could be.
psyop to
Yeah.
scare people out of certain things.
sure.
Because it seems just so, like, why don't we see more of this?
Well, but I was wondering, like, why don't we see more miracles?
Right.
Like, miracles happen.
Right. What's your definition of miracle? We
well,
had this debate
Shane
on
thinks he
here.
sees a miracle every day. So.
I think
Is that true?
I think being alive is a miracle.
Well, birth is a miracle.
Right.
We could say that is true.
Right.
I see.
You mean like the profound,
Yes.
Unparalleled
Yes.
miracle that God performs, like
You're
maybe we
dead,
could
now
pull that
you're
up
alive.
too, actually. Right.
Yeah, yes.
Or
Yeah,
water coming out of a stone.
Do you want me to Google
right.
God makes?
Oh, we didn't do the
miracles
stone.
happen?
Yeah,
did
we should go back to that real quick because
Yeah,
now we're talking
yeah.
about miracles, and it's about to be we're in Exodus season,
Right.
Okay.
Passover, Good Friday, and the resurrection.
Yeah.
It's
Lord.
all coming up.
Where are we going? Where are we going?
Go to the video of that rock that they say is the rock that Moses.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Can you tell us that story? Like, do you remember it? I know this is on the spot.
So I can't remember what built up to it, but basically Moses was really angry about
Yeah.
something that God mandated, and he struck a rock
Right.
out of anger,
Wasn't
not
it-
out of a directive.
Was it not fighting or something? Were they being attacked at this point?
I can't remember.
I know, I can't
I
remember.
really should have looked into this,
Yeah.
but like, basically Moses, against God's judgment,
Yeah.
struck a rock in anger,
Right.
and he got water
Right. And everyone was able to drink.
out of a rock.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Which is like.
And they're saying that this is the rock.
So yeah, can you pull this up? Let's see what this
here we
guy
go.
says.
Let's go.
Horeb.
Come on.
Yeah, the rock of Horeb.
Oh my
Oh,
God. I
it's
want you
making
to
me do a thing?
make sure you're not a.
What do I do?
Let's all see
All
if
right,
Alex is a
prove
human or
you're
not.
not a robot.
Alex, you're on the spot.
I have to listen to what I hear.
L P P I
Oh God.
What?
B.
I have never
You're-
seen one of these
You're
before.
teaching it, Alex.
This is crazy.
I'm deaf.
Failed.
Wait. Do an image.
Is that
Do an
you or
image.
the robot?
Wait, no. What?
Wow.
Okay, God.
P B Y
This is hilarious.
E
What the hell?
H.
Okay. Oh, thank God.
Oh,
Okay.
Alex, we were worried.
Hey, friends and family, we're at the Split Rock of Horeb. You see those people coming down? This thing is huge.
The vagina.
This is where we think Moses struck the rock, as described in Exodus 17, and a whole bunch of water split the rock and came down in this area. There is water erosion everywhere. We are in the land of Midian, modern-day Saudi Arabia, just a few miles from Jabal el-Lawz, which could be the real Mount Sinai. Go to Exodus 17 to read about what happened here.
Come on.
Can you pull up the Rock of Horeb? So we just get. I want to make sure we get that right. And it's just reminding me of other things in Exodus. I've been thinking about Exodus a lot lately.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find the exact line, but there's that one about
What would you like?
no
exactly?
sorceress should be allowed to live.
Sure.
And
yeah.
that, I'm like, man. And now I'm like thinking about today, like the remote viewing. Is that considered sorcery? Like, is that
course,
witchcraft?
yeah.
I think so.
Yeah,
Right?
it is.
So like, I think you'd be punished for doing that stuff. And maybe
Yeah.
that's what in the. Oh, so it is split.
it
So
say?
that other angle didn't show us like this.
There wasn't this like real split here. This.
So allegedly, this is the rock that Moses split.
Did
with
it
his
say
staff.
where it was?
Well, it's modern day Saudi Arabia,
Okay.
but originally it was the Rock of Horeb, Horeb.
Exodus is such a great book.
Yeah.
In the Old Testament, like
Yeah.
the image of the mountain as God is speaking to the people, and they're all afraid. And this is what I love about it so much is that Moses, who's refusing to be a public speaker in the beginning, right, and then Aaron has to kind of be his mouthpiece. God's like, well, if you can't do it, then Aaron, your brother's going to do it, and he ends up being the public speaker. And then Moses, after we know he doesn't want to speak to anyone because he's afraid, then it becomes the only person who's going to talk to God.
Yeah.
Of all.
It's a book that's full of life and humanity. I mean, like, right down to maybe even modern day Jewish culture, because you know he leads. Of course, the big problem is that like he leads these people out of Egypt, and they're reluctant the whole way.
Yep.
And then they get to the sea. The Egyptians are after them.
Yep.
And then, like in true Jewish comedy fashion, they say, "You brought us out here to like have graves in the desert.
Yeah.
Like at least we had bread,
Right.
You know,
It's
I mean,
a Curb
like,
Your Enthusiasm episode.
it is.
Like,
It is.
like,
It is.
man, yeah.
Curb Your Enthusiasm. You see, like in my mind, like the perfect Moses casting for a movie about this authentically is Woody Allen. Like, he doesn't want to talk. He doesn't want to be the guy that's like the leader. But Woody Allen is the quintessential Moses.
Right. I
if
can't
you're
help
casting
it.
this
I
movie.
think of Mel Brooks because the
Yeah.
history of the world
That's
when he
good
comes down
too.
with the 3 tablets.
Yeah.
The one drops. He's like, I have 15.
It's a
It
10.
drops. Oh, 10 commandments.
Right.
It's great comedy. Great comedy. But yeah, no, it is. It's comedic. Like there's a lot of
It is.
humor.
I
in
think
that.
actually what they actually like the Hebrew says. What did they run out of grave space in Egypt?
Such a good.
That's
such
perfect.
A good sentence.
Yeah,
Such a good image.
it is.
Yeah, there's
It
so much
is.
good
Yeah.
imagery and like the mountain kind of on fire with the
Yeah.
lightning and how it scares everybody, and then the whole idea of the false idol. I mean, that is so relevant to today and people creating false idols, and that's why God is mad at you. And Moses is upset. Moses doesn't even make it into the promised land at the end, right?
No, he doesn't.
It's
He's denied the
crazy.
promised land.
It's
yeah.
crazy. After all that
Yeah.
wandering around, he's like, no.
That should be a beacon of hope for anybody that's in the throes of sin. Is that like Moses? I mean, like who is a better leader? In terms of Jewish and Christian lore than Moses, and yet he was denied access to the promised land.
You think that's a beacon of hope?
I do.
How?
Yeah, because even if you can be face to face conversing with God,
Right.
and you can have so much. God can sign off on you, like David too, right? And still, you can like be denied.
Right. That sounds so sad, though.
It is sad, but at the same time, it's just like, okay, so you can be that close to God Himself, but we all fall short of the glory of God.
Right. But He makes it into heaven. Right? Don't we know Moses is in heaven? From
I would imagine so.
Isn't there? I forget what.
Yeah.
In the New Testament, it is. I'm forgetting. There's a part where they're on the mountain, and I believe the person
He's one of the ones.
He's one of the ones, right?
Right.
And there's a lot of witchcraft in the Bible. Not a lot, but there's.
Well, there's
Samuel.
things that we can't explain.
Right. Well, there's necromancy, right?
In Samuel, right?
In Samuel,
right. That's true.
He raises the dead to speak Does
Yes.
a witch raise someone from the dead?
Well, yeah,
That's a no-no,
yeah.
right?
But she's shocked that actually somebody that is the spirit of a person that lived
Right.
actually appears.
It's the best,
You know,
best ever written.
Yeah,
I
it
love
is.
it. I've been on a Jonah kick. I think I told you that recently.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
reread it constantly because
Right.
that to me is a comedy. You know,
It is.
It is an old, like, hilarious comedy. This guy who's God is told, "Go tell Nineveh, I'm going to destroy them." If
He
they
was
don't
just
get it
like,
right.
"Fuck Nineveh!
like, I'm not doing
anything but that."
Yeah, God, I love you, but I'm not going anywhere near that. It's like a crazy place. And he like takes on a boat. He goes in the opposite direction. And then God's like ruining the ship and he's making the waves go crazy. And then the people are like, who's doing this? And they're like, it's him. It's this guy, Jonah.
Yeah.
Throw him overboard in a big fish for 3 days. And it's one of my favorite sentences in the entire Old Testament. Then the fish vomited him on the shore. Depending on what translation you go with.
Yeah,
I love that.
and then he goes there. He, testifies to these people.
Yeah.
They repent. He's furious that they repent.
It's hilarious.
And then he goes and he sits under this tree that like God makes come out of the, and
it
he's
withers.
just like, and he's so angry that the tree withers.
Yeah.
He's just like, why? And God is just like, look, that tree didn't make itself, but it gave you shade. And meanwhile, there's 150,000 people that can't tell their right hand from their left hand.
Yes. Yeah. Even animals too.
Yeah.
Remember, it ends with like a weird way of like.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
It's hard to know exactly like the interpretation, like why the animals.
That's
so
why the
good.
Bible is so fascinating because it
Yeah.
gives us this unbelievable insight into the mind of God.
Yeah.
And it's just like that mind is indescribable,
As
indecipherable.
it should be. As it
Yes,
is,
yeah. But
Well,
but
like
it's
nothing
it's our
stops.
only like dim map
Yep.
that we have.
Yep, yep.
And yet we have it.
It's amazing journalism, but it's also like completely abstract.
Luke is an amazing journalist.
Right.
Luke is the
Right,
best journalist
right,
in the
right.
Bible.
Why
Yeah.
is Luke your favorite?
Because he kept it to the facts.
Yeah.
Like, because Matthew is chasing the historical meaning of like the Messiah.
Right.
Mark is he's factual, but he's also kind of like skipping out on some key things that Luke brings out. And like Luke is a doctor,
Right.
so he's like a doctor in like 2,000 years ago. So he has to keep things as accurate as possible.
Yeah.
He's a Gentile,
Yeah.
from what I've read. He's not a Jew,
Right.
so he doesn't have access to the stuff that means a lot to Matthew.
Right.
John is piped in. John is like the David Lynch of the Bible. Like John is like piped into like hallucinogenic.
images, yeah.
Like
That's
he's
so
the
funny.
apostle. It's just like there's a woman in trouble. You know?
That's so
Like
funny.
he's the one that's just like in a different stratosphere of like conscious thought. Luke is the journalist.
Right.
He's the doctor. He's the one that understands what's happening and he can explain it very well. And he's the most reliable out of all of
That's
them.
why I love that it's chosen like that, to have
Yeah.
all those perspectives
Yes.
on the same thing.
Yeah.
Because that's, I talk about like cubism. I kind of mean it like that.
Right.
Right. It's like the same. You and I, we talk about this a lot where like Picasso would, when he was doing cubism, he would take a vase on the table and paint it from every angle. He'd walk around the table.
Yeah.
And when I read all the different accounts
Yeah.
of Jesus, in the gospel, it's people just taking their own perspectives in their own corners.
Right.
So you can judge, or not judge, but like compare and contrast.
Right.
And you're
Right.
getting all these different angles. I love that that's the choice, with the book. It's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Do you talk about transcribing or translating the Bible at all?
Yeah. I spent 3 years.
Yeah.
Basically, learning as much as I could about Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek. Because my whole vision was just like, if the Bible wasn't 1,000 pages, I mean, nobody reads anymore at all now. But like 8 years ago, I was thinking that people might still want to read.
Right.
I was just like, nobody's going to read 1,000-page book, but if I could get it down to 200 easy to read pages, just like distill all the chapters in the Bible into 8 chapters, just like kind of like segment it and make it very easy to read, then more people might read it.
Yeah.
The idea was just like to get the Bible, the message, the word
I love reading
out
it.
to more people.
Yeah.
And make it simpler.
Yep.
So yeah, I spent a few years.
Where can they
Alright.
find that?
Yeah.
Huh? It was on Amazon. I self-published it. It's called Kingdom Come. That was my best title to describe what this book is without calling it the Bible, which means lots of books.
Right.
But and that was what I really tried to do, was kind of like figure out what the spine of the narrative is. And I do think that it is one pretty solid spine to that 1,000 pages in the Bible. It's just like from Genesis to Revelation. it's kingdom. It's about the kingdom that failed, and the kingdom that's to come. So that's why I arrived at Kingdom Come.
Yeah, I think I even quote it in the Inverted World
You did,
book, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
you did.
It's in the Georgia
we,
one.
We talked about
because
that.
there was so much about all
Yeah.
the conversations down there were really. And this is before I was a believer, right?
Sure.
And that book, that experience had a profound impact on me. All those people, like
Really?
the Brantleys and everything, and like you're like meeting all this crazy evil throughout time. And I think it was the story of the guy in the very beginning of that book where there's this guy who was like an evil man, like an innkeeper, and he would actually make mudslides. And this is like the 1700s because he believed that he'd ruin their wagons and they'd have to stay at his inn, right? And he ends up repenting, and then he ends up being buried standing up below ground, holding a rifle and a jug of whiskey should he ever meet the devil. And so I was like really on this kick of like, I got to read more of the Bible.
Yeah.
And I was talking to you about because you were editing it, and
Right.
and yeah, Revelation. I think that's part of Revelation putting in there because there's so much talk of evil in that town.
Sure.
And people have all these like crazy psychic visions, according to them. And like there was that guy who kept contacting me who was like, the world's gonna end. I just had a dream about a giant skyscraper-sized Satan, like conquering our town.
Yeah.
It was wild. It was wild. What was it? I want one last thing for you. Oh yeah, this is real niche, but I want to bring it up. I have a new theory on Pynchon.
Okay.
And for those who don't know, Thomas Pynchon is.
I've been arguing all day with a guy about inherent
Are you
vice.
serious? Are you serious?
With inherent vice. I've been arguing all day
story of my
with
life.
this guy
Wait,
about
you like it?
inherent vice.
You like it or you don't like it?
I despise that movie.
Oh,
it is
really?
unwatchable. It is
I like it.
unwatchable.
I like it.
Why do you like it? Why? The
maybe
opening
just
scene
because-
is stillborn. It's
Yeah.
stillborn.
Maybe because it just felt good to see like a interesting Pynchon on screen. That's
I was
probably it.
high as fuck when I
Yeah,
watched that movie.
yeah.
We saw it together. We were both high as
I
fuck.
fell
Really?
asleep.
It was
Really?
so high.
Yeah.
Perfect state of mind to watch this movie.
Yeah.
And awful.
Yeah, it doesn't
stops.
capture the paranoia. You know, I
Doesn't
saw
capture
it
the
when I
paranoia.
saw it in theaters. I saw it in Manhattan. We were still living in Brooklyn, and I just dropped Nancy off at work in Times Square, and I was like, "Oh, Inherent Vice is out. I love that book. I love Thomas Pynchon." And I went, and it was completely empty. No one's there except for one random man. One random man walks in, and I'm like,
Is it Pynchon?
I wouldn't be able to know. I wouldn't know because
Yeah.
no one knows, he's a recluse. People like he does. No one knows really what he looks like. There's possibly young pictures of him, but no one really knows what he looks like because he's a recluse. But that's what I told myself. I was like, that's Pynchon.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why my experience was elevated because I felt like I was watching it with Pynchon. But now I'm like, what if
How
there's no?
high was you?
Not at all. At that point, I'd been out of that whole phase of my life. But now I'm like, what if there is no Pynchon at all? And what if he's
Chris,
been, like,
did you speak to him?
I did. I did talk to
but
him.
maybe
Yeah.
you just talked to someone who's
No, like I got his number off the internet. I paid $1.95 for his number because I could look it up. This was in 2008. You could actually look up people's numbers. And I looked it up and I got Thomas Pynchon, Manhattan number, called it. And then after I talked to him, I destroyed the number so I would remove the temptation for calling him again.
So respectful.
And I should have kept it. What a moron.
No,
I
that's
was
good
really
for
high
him.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm like, maybe what if he was AI all along, and like the government's had AI longer
Yeah.
than we know.
God.
And
I think
they
about
put
that
together
now.
books. You know, I'm like looking at all these books. I'm like, did people even write some of these, or did just like some robot that the government's had forever in a basement pumping out books and creating like as like Elon's an actor to me. You know, they're just creating all these characters to
That's
take over
really
the world,
plausible. It's really plausible.
which is a bummer
quite
because I
honestly.
love Pynchon.
I don't think I love him anymore.
Yeah, I love the idea of Pynchon.
Yes,
it's like
the
I don't
idea,
go back and
yes.
reread it.
Yeah.
The only thing I go back and reread is The Crying of Lot 49.
Yeah.
It's short. It's
Yeah.
a short book, but I love that book.
Yeah, he told me that he was disappointed in that book.
Really?
Yeah, because there was the rumor was out there that he was not happy with that book, and I asked him about that, and he was just like, "Yeah, it's not," because he's got. I knew it was Pynchon because he has this like thick Oyster Bay Long Island accent, like
Right,
like
yeah.
very distinct, and he was just like, "Yeah, it could have been better," you know.
That's so funny.
And I was just like, "Do you need an assistant? Like, I want to work for him." He was just like, "No, I Google." You know, Pynchon says, "No, I just Google."
I love that.
2008 era
He's
Pynchon.
in that movie, supposedly. Paul Thomas
That's-
Anderson said he's in it.
I don't think he confirmed it. He flirted with the idea that he might be in it, but I don't think he
Interesting.
confirmed it.
Just like
Yeah.
Elvis is in Home Alone. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Well, Elvis right now is in the White House.
Wait, is that Trump or Elon Musk?
It's Trump. Everyone knows that Elvis is Trump, and
Come
Barron's a time
on.
traveler. We could have done just like 10 minutes of this whole episode because we know Barron Trump is a time traveler.
Yeah.
He has the Ark of the Covenant is at Mar-a-Lago right now.
Right.
James O'Keefe
And
posted
we
a picture of
get
himself with it. We know that whole story.
You know, Bret Easton Ellis just reread Gravity's Rainbow.
Really?
And he's talked about it. He says that it is just a beautiful novel, beginning to end. Just like fell completely head over heels in love with it.
I love that. If I do sometimes go back to it, but no, I don't reread it. I just want to open it and then experience it because it's really
you got to dip
tough,
into it.
tough read.
Yeah,
it's like Crying of Lot 49 and Inherent Vice have like a real easier narrative, even though it's so complicated.
Yeah.
But like, what is it, Mason Dixon?
I think Against the Day is the book that I have to revisit. Against the
I actually
Day.
never read that one.
Yeah, I think I got like 300 pages into it, and I had like 1,000 more pages left to go. But Against the Day, I think, is the book that probably got it most right because it deals with anarchists and governments and stuff like
I've always loved the paranoia that he brings to the page, and Inherent Vice, the book, is so good at that paranoia. Like it's stoner paranoia. It's kind of like a lot of stuff. Like it was like the movie was like a Big Lebowski version of the book.
If it was funny, it would be. But
it's funny because I reference that movie a lot. Moto Panic
really? I don't remember
Moto
anything
Panic
about
Keiko.
this movie.
I've seen it a bunch.
Inherent Vice or Big Lebowski?
Inherent Vice.
Okay.
Yeah,
right.
Inherent Vice. And it's, I don't think it's perfect, but there's something about it. I just like it. I don't know. I really don't know why. It might just be like seeing it.
Yeah, because it's indescribable and indefensible.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. I'm going to go back and watch it now.
The thing is, Shane watches one movie a year. And when he does, he's like blown away.
This is true. If it's not for getting Sarah Marshall.
Wow. TV.
He's like, look at this.
You're like the 2001, Space Odyssey, the monkey throwing the...
Yeah. The monolith and the bone comes up. Yeah, that is actually fairly true.
We know Shane.
Rarely watch anything. It's a problem. This is why I have Easy Pass problems. It's like, I got to plug back into the universe.
Lord.
Oh, man.
Help me.
You had a lot of happy birthday messages, by the way.
Oh, sweet. Thank you all.
We had, I don't know if they called it a Rumble, Super Chats on Rumble, but $2 from Cookie Dawn. Happy birthday.
They call them Rumble Rants.
That's right,
Rumble Rants.
Rumble
That's it.
Rants.
Thank you.
Yes.
Right.
$2 from Sorenko. Happy birthday, Shane.
Sorenko. I know Sorenko.
Yeah.
Hi, Chris and Shane.
Sick.
Wow, Rumble is very generous with the amount of characters per dollar for Super Chats or rants, I guess. This would cost me $10 on YouTube. So I guess go spend your money on Rumble because it's
Sick.
cheaper. I don't
That's
know.
awesome.
Just
There
want
you
to
go.
let you know about that.
Well, thank you guys
Beautiful.
for tuning in. This was a fun episode.
It was a great birthday episode.
My tinfoil yarmulke. There we go.
Actually,
Actually, now it's like we the Tin Man. We are the Tin Men. And
We are the- yeah.
Yeah.
Honorary member of the tribe.
Yeah, that's
we
hilarious.
represent.
Where can people find you online?
Chris Karr 17 on X. Off my hat. That's pretty much it. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
where you can find me. You're going to find me making a lot of things that could perhaps render me unemployable, but I'm not going to stop anytime soon.
Yeah.
It's okay. I'm going to keep speaking my truth.
Chris Carr's Twitter feed is like a face tattoo.
Isn't that everyone's Twitter feed?
definitely
Yeah,
mine.
but like in El Salvador, definitely jailable. Yeah, El Salvador is not happy with
Once
tattoos.
Chris goes to jail in El Salvador, it'd be a great time for the family to visit.
Yeah, not going to. Sorry.
We are beach people. It's okay. It's fine.
What about you?
I am Alex Ayala on X.
That's right.
Sometimes because fuck X and Twitter and social media
Hey.
in general. Sorry, I mean, honestly.
Hey, yo, whoa, hey,
Oh,
yo, hey.
you too. I can't.
You guys had way too much of this Sasquatch beer. I
drink
took
that
one
shit.
sip. I'm like, this is disgusting.
It is. It's bad.
It's
It's
really
really
bad.
bad.
It's sweet
Yeah.
potato,
It tastes like
pale
Sasquatch.
ale. It tastes like
The label is honest.
Wait, but now you can make the Sasquatch sound.
I'm not even going to try that. The people are going to be so mad if I even attempt that. But yeah, thank you all for tuning in. Sorry to this beer company that it's trash. Thank you for the birthday wishes. That was awesome. And if I don't get arrested,
Oh yeah, please don't.
I'll be back next week.
Don't get pulled over,
Yeah.
please.
Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you next time.